950 The Fan, Rochester, an Odyssey sports station.
It's time to start the show and talk about the sports we saw. Inside jokes and takes from Danger and Battaglia. Bills and the Sabres and the Amherst. Who gave a microphone to these jerks? Welcome to the sports bar, that's where you are. Welcome to the sports bar, that's where you are. Welcome to the sports bar, that's where you are. With Danger and Battaglia.
We are set and fired up for another afternoon of fantastic sports talk in the Flower City. Welcome into the sports bar. Danger and Battaglia. Glad you're with us. Thanks for kicking off your weekend at 95.7 FM, AM 950. The free-to-download Odyssey, iHeartRadio, or TuneIn apps if you're mobile. And if you're streaming, we are on YouTube and Twitch. You can watch the video stream on our channel, The Fan Rochester. I'm Danger. That's Battaglia.
If the Bills had won in Denver, we would not be playing a game Sunday. I don't know if you heard, Danger. A big storm is coming. 18 to 24 inches in Foxborough.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Oh, wait. You mean to tell me we're going to get snow? Because that never happens around these parts in January. Come on, guys.
No. Weather means ratings.
Oh, count.
Be sure to watch the 13 VAM News tonight with me, Count Hetzko, where we count down the warning. How many inches? 12, 13, 14. Your life, my Danger, could be in danger.
Your life depends on it. The thing is, I part of my responsibilities for this fine broadcast company include oversight of a couple of radio stations in Virginia.
Oh, they must be freaking out.
Richmond and Virginia Beach. Virginia Beach is like, okay, it was snow, now they're saying it's rain, then they're saying it might be snow. Like, everything's going to shut down. If it snows, everything shuts down. And I don't want to brush off the idea that if they get hit with ice, that's not a big deal. Like, we all know if you lived here in the mid-'90s what an ice storm can do to you. But they're just not equipped. I mean, they're just not equipped for, like, they're talking about, oh my God, what are we going to do if we get 8 inches of snow? How are we going to deal? I'm like, yeah, we're going to get somewhere close to 2 feet. But we'll be okay. No big deal. No big deal. We're equipped. We're different here. We're a hardy breed. And that's before I got a text from a friend I went to high school with. I grew up in northern Minnesota. Some of you may know that. And the temperature there, I don't want to get it wrong. I got to make sure I get it right here. The temperature in the town that I lived in as a kid, East Grand Forks, Minnesota, 24 below. That's not the wind chill.
That's not the wind chill. So the wind chill is what?
24 below, wind chill of minus 32.
Can I just ask the obvious question? I'm not trying to be a jerk, but why would you live there?
You live there for two reasons. I'm glad you asked.
Yeah.
One of two reasons. Either A, you were born there, or B, you are hiding from something. That's it.
Yeah, and if you're in North Dakota, you just can't wait to get out of it. It's such a beautiful thing. Like, it's just...
You'll take any chance you can get to get out of...
It's just awesome.
What made it so awesome?
Just being here. Being away from North Dakota, for us to be here, it's just great.
And to get to see Carson Wentz?
Yes, he's awesome. Such a role model for our kids and grandkids.
Bless her soul. I don't know if she's still with us.
No, I looked it up. She's no longer with us. I mean, my gosh, it's really morose when you see, oh my gosh, there's the obituary online.
Bless her soul. She just was so excited to be out of North Dakota.
My favorite part of this, such a role model for our kids and grandkids. Well, for your kids, they're grown adults.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So hey, hopefully everybody is ready to hunker down and do what you need to do. Stay up to date with the snow as it falls. I did the driveway this morning. I woke up, I looked at it, I'm like, okay, it's not a lot. It's a couple of inches, but let's get ahead of it and let's start now. And I'm sure when I go home tonight, by the time we get off the air, there'll probably be a couple more inches and just lather, rinse, repeat. I think I'm dealing with it better this year than I've dealt with it most. This has been a rough winter. This has been like weather-wise. It hit like before Thanksgiving and it hasn't really let up. There was maybe a week or two where it let up.
This is the time where usually I hear, "Oh, Florida."
I haven't said it once.
Plotting.
Haven't even said it once.
No, I'm the one that came out of my mouth. I'm fine with it here. Look, if you're just somebody who like, all right, if you can get past the fact that it's the team that beat the Bills against the team that if you're a Bills fan you hate, all right, and then you got a really good NFC Championship game at night and the snow's coming down.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Hunker down, get your supplies on Saturday, get ready to hunker down and watch your favorite team or your favorite game on Sunday, and we'll go from there. But we're going to talk a little bit about that. But honestly, it's so uninteresting to me, the AFC and NFC Championship game. I think what's going on with the Buffalo Bills obviously still commands almost 100% of our attention, especially when you have breaking news alerts throughout the day of who the Bills are talking to, and you see a name on there that makes you do not a double take, a triple take. I was talking to a friend of mine when the news broke, and he's like, "Are you kidding me with this?" And I just started laughing. I'm like, why not? Cast a wide net, as they say.
Yeah.
And what's the worst thing that can happen if you interview Phillip Rivers, who's never been a NFL head coach and has only coached high school football? At minimum, you could see maybe the Josh McCown pathway for a guy like Phillip Rivers, right? And if he's got a relationship with Josh Allen, they share the same agent, then, quarterback's coach. Could you do worse than Phillip Rivers as the Buffalo Bills quarterback's coach? I don't hate that idea. We'll talk about everything that's gone on this week with DA, Damon Amendolara, the host of the Bill Maddock podcast. He's joining us at 4:25 this afternoon. Lance Lysowski, who covers the team for the Buffalo News, stops by the sports bar in less than 20 minutes.
Yeah, I think the Mike McDaniel news was a little surprising considered, hey, he just accepted the OC job with the Chargers, but that was probably contingent on, hey, there's other job openings. I'm going to leave you, Jim Harbaugh. And again, I don't know. That's an interesting one because that's a sort of offensive mind that you would love having in your room. It's also somebody, Danger, that really kind of lost the team in the sense that players showing up late for meetings, quarterback calling out players, just from a culture standpoint, and somebody that, quite honestly, we goofed on here because we were concerned about his. It sounded like he had mental health issues.
I'm not interested in a guy whose mental makeup is this.
You should stand corrected. Good morning. False. Great morning. Let's go.
Why great? What makes this one great?
Because we're another day closer to death.
You could say, okay, that's just his humor. He's just dry humor.
Yeah.
That's who he is. And okay, that's fine. And he's making a joke. But is he making a joke? Is he that miserable in his existence as the coach of the Miami Dolphins where he's excited that we're one day closer to death? I don't know. And we maybe are making more of that than we need to. But at the same time, that might just be him. I want to believe that if as an offensive coordinator, I think he'd be great. If you're interviewing him and you're not going to get him as an offensive coordinator because it's head coach or nothing. He's going to the Chargers. So I think the Chargers are in good shape with him as their OC, but I'm not really interested in having this guy be the next head coach of the Buffalo Bills.
To win games, you have to win the game, not lose the game, honestly. And that is how you lose the game. You're moving the ball down the field. You're 1st and 10, and then you find yourself at 2nd and 20. That was critical.
From the standpoint, just the baseline here of, all right, we're going to talk to Mike McDaniel, and he obviously had success going against the Buffalo defense. Heck, if he didn't have his third-string quarterback, they actually might have won that playoff game. Remember last year, Achane running all over the place? I would want to get his thoughts on the Buffalo Bills defense. And maybe this is – and we're all impatient, but if you're using this time to get an outside view of your organization, and maybe Brandon Beane and Terry Pegula and all the decision makers can learn something about the self-evaluation here.
That's absolutely it right there. I mean, you hit it on the head, and I think if you bring in a guy like that and your intention is we want to interview him to be the head coach, but our takeaway is going to be we're going to be smarter because we've gotten into his mind a little bit, I think that's healthy. So ultimately, I don't really care who they bring in. Like, they can bring in whoever they want. They can interview Marv.
Oh, who cares?
Honestly, cast as wide a net as you want. Who they interview, who they bring in, doesn't bother me. Who they hire, that's all that matters.
Yeah.
And eventually, I think they're going to get to the names that are going to be very interesting. Those guys are coaching this weekend, so unfortunately, we won't know about Davis Webb or Clint Kubiak.
You and I are trying to timeline this out, and ultimately, all right, if it ends up being, say, Patriots, well, even the NFC Championship game, like you want to talk to Schleelhaus or the Rams, or you want to talk to Kubiak, like there's going to be somebody that you're going to wait for. Couple differences here. One, of the jobs that are still open. Now, Steeler fans could just say, hey, based on our history and based on some other factors, like you come here, you're going to have job security. Okay, fair enough, but I still think that the Buffalo Bills right now have the best opening of the teams that are left, and that can give you some time to be choosy. There isn't a candidate out there, by the way, that is so hot that you got to run and get it done.
Those guys are gone.
No, like Giants for Harbaugh and also for the Falcons with Stefanski. Now, would Harbaugh have come to Buffalo? Would Stefanski have come to Buffalo?
Would the Pegulas have paid Harbaugh?
No.
That's your answer on that one.
That's my answer.
And Stefanski, I think Stefanski would have fit. Stefanski would have been a fit with the Bills. Like, you could have made the case. But you just got rid of a coach who got you to the postseason 8 of his 9 seasons. And Stefanski, while a 2-time coach of the year, recent track record isn't great as far as wins and losses. So are you really upgrading with Stefanski if you move off from McDermott? I think the unknown and the potential of the unknown is more exciting than Kevin Stefanski. So I'm not too worried about that.
Well, and ultimately, too, where Brandon Beane will be offended if you make the suggestion about power play or any ulterior motive. But the reality is, like, if they bring in the 30-year-old hotshot, we all know there's going to be some growing pains. And with growing pains, that will mean that will there be somebody that needs to fall on the sword next year? Like, this will give Brandon Beane a year or two to get the roster exactly where he wants it.
Yeah.
And
it gives him the opportunity to mold and have somebody who's malleable, who's not going to push back. Yeah, we discussed that yesterday when we were talking about Daboll coming in versus a new, younger, never been head coach coming in, a first-time head coach coming in. Even a guy like Mike McDaniel might push back a little bit. Hey, I have an idea of how I can make this work, but I can't have you undermining me. I need to be able to bring the guy. I went through this in Miami. I can't deal with it. I need my guys.
Danger, I know I might be alone on this. Brian Daboll as OC would only work if you're bringing in somebody that would, have more respect. And that would be Lou Anarumo. Like, Lou Anarumo, I don't think has gotten a head coaching job just because of that side of the ball. But wouldn't that, if you bring in 2 guys like that, now that would be kind of a shotgun marriage, I suppose. But I'm trying to envision a way where maybe Daboll would fit. Really, in my mind, it's really just as the OC, but like what?
Davis Webb and Brian Daboll. That makes sense to me. First-time head coach, offensive coordinator, play caller, get a good defensive mind in here. And speaking of defensive minds, Anthony Weaver interviewing with the Steelers today, but the Bills tomorrow. So the Dolphins defensive coordinator will be interviewing with the Bills, and I think that's part of this too, right? Like, you want to talk to these guys because, hey, we're not hiring you to be the head coach, but we're going to need to fill out a staff, and if you like what you're hearing, then you could do worse than the Buffalo Bills. So Weaver interviews tomorrow. Rivers interviewed today, along with Mike McDaniel, and they're all in Florida right now, right? Like
That's it.
The interviews are in
So,
Florida.
I mean,
Nice little
is
vacation for the family.
Yeah, is that his estate? Is there a yacht? I'm not sure. There was a report that then they'll be in Los Angeles to talk to Anthony Lynn. I don't know if that's true or not, but he's also on the list here. But they're getting out of Buffalo. I can't fault them, right?
Right. So that's the latest updates. And Udinsky is, I want to say he's in Cleveland for his second interview before he'll take a Bills interview on Sunday. I saw a clip of him kind of talking about his pathway to where he is now as the OC of the Jags, and he was impressive. I thought he came off impressive to me. I don't know, this year with Liam Cohen as their head coach, I don't know how involved he was truly in that offense. And he is also 30 years old, much like Davis Webb. I mean, imagine that. Davis Webb, if he gets hired, your quarterback and your head coach are the same age. And Josh Allen isn't old. It's crazy.
Allen, by the way, is he's down in Florida.
He's a
too.
part of it.
He's a part of it.
Yeah, he's a part of it.
Which, that's an interesting thing, too. I got a text from our friend Tim. He said, I don't like this, having the quarterback be involved. This shouldn't be his decision. And, boy, there's pros and cons to it, okay? But I'm going to point out a pro, and that would be you need Josh Allen fully invested, okay? To the idea that if it goes wrong, he'll stand by this guy. So that's why I think it's important. It's the rare exception where I think you have to have a player involved in the process of signing off on the new head coach. This rare. Like somebody point out like instances in NFL history where, hey, the head coach, you gotta talk to him.
I think the last time we had this discussion or this debate about a quarterback's involvement in the hiring of a head coach was Aaron Rodgers in Green Bay. McCarthy left,
and
LaFleur came in, and wasn't Rodgers upset that he wasn't involved?
Yeah. Which, again, I don't fault Green Bay at the time.
Right. And they probably thought, well, you're not involved because you're a weirdo. But maybe that was an error. Maybe they should have involved him.
Yeah, and we don't know because that conversation, Terry Pegula made it clear, that is private.
Yeah.
What were Josh Allen's thoughts about Sean McDermott? I think those two, Danger, the way they were having dinner together, the way that McDermott went out to the wedding, that's got to sting. And there is no closure. It's just a terrible ending, right? It's an awful ending. And I will stand by this. I know Mike Cannella said that wasn't it at all, and we'll never know this, but the tears in that locker room were coming from something. Now, you could say it's just because, hey, it wasn't Patrick Mahomes or Joe Burrow on the other. We blew this. Okay, I listened to that. But they're professionals. You don't get tears like that. You just don't after a loss.
Yeah, it was, that was staggering. It was staggering. I don't remember the last time you saw an NFL player weeping the way Josh was. I mean,
Luke Kuechly. I mean, but that's totally different.
Right. Yeah, that was something.
That was something where, like, I wish somebody would have said, stop, Josh. Like, the media will wait 20 minutes. They'll wait a half hour. They will wait 2 hours.
Get it out.
You go take a shower. Go get changed. In fact, he's up there on the podium. That's why they give you the mandatory cooling off period. And sometimes cooling off could have those sort of emotions too. But
well, another beat reporter that was there on site, Lance Lysowski, has been covering the Bills for the Buffalo News. His first season covering the Bills for the Buffalo News, and he's done a great job. I can't wait to get his thoughts on the past week.
I was texting him like, "You feel like you're on the Sabres beat?" Yeah.
Yeah, what happens? Lance leaves the Sabres beat. The Sabres start winning, comes to the Bills beat, and, well, it's kind of more the same for the Buffalo Bills, but dysfunction on display with both organizations, and, it starts at the top, as we like to say. Sabres get the win last night, by the way, over the Canadians. 17-3-1 in their last 21 games.
To the point where you're thinking, oh my gosh, not a wild card. Oh my gosh, could they get up to the second spot and actually have home ice advantage? This is what I've been telling everybody. This is awesome. Let's see if they pick this up after the Olympics.
A lot of hockey left to be played.
Yeah.
A lot of hockey left to be played. Let's check in with Lance. Lance Isowski, the Buffalo News. We'll talk some more Bills next on The Fan.
interview list, as is former Colts and Chargers quarterback Phillip Rivers. Chris Brown on Rivers.
What's the culture going to be like with Phillip Rivers?
Yeah,
You know,
I mean, the people that played with him say he is a natural, authentic leader, and I think we all have agreed that the number one job requirement of an NFL head coach is to be a leader of men. I think there's a slight nuance difference from leading a team as a quarterback and leading a team as a head coach. It's different.
Lance Lysowski, the Buffalo News. We'll talk about the Bills coaching search coming up next here in the Sports Bar. It's hockey night tonight in the Flower City. Utica is the opponent. It's the first of 6 straight home games for Rochester. Our coverage will begin at 7 o'clock. Home and home for RIT hockey tonight. They play at Niagara. Gene Battaglia, the sports leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950, The Fan, Rochester.
They've raised the bar on Rochester Sports Talk. You're in the Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia on the Sports Leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950 The Fan, Rochester.
Welcome back into the Sports Bar. It's Danger and Battaglia. Talking Buffalo Bills with Lance Lysowski covering the team for the Buffalo News. Buddy, good to have you on with us. Thanks for giving us some of your time. I want to go back to Saturday. I want to go back to the post game, the locker room, everything that led to the dismissal of Sean McDermott on Monday. And Gino and I have been talking about this off and on throughout the course of the week, and I'm wondering if you can help us break ties here, because we kind of are under the assumption that the emotion that we saw from guys like Allen, guys like Deion Dawkins, it was almost as if they knew there was more weight to this loss, that this loss could potentially signal the end of Sean McDermott's tenure. Did you get that sense? Because it did feel different this year versus other disappointing years' ends.
I definitely think it was different. I mean, that scene inside that locker room was unlike anything I've ever experienced across professional sports. But I don't think it was necessarily tied to them wondering if a coaching change was going to come. It's just, look at the other teams in the playoffs. Like, the path was there for the Bills to get to the Super Bowl, not only get there, but to win it. They felt really good about where their defense was at, where they were at as a group, despite the injuries, and for it to end in that fashion with, like Allen having as bad of a game as we've ever seen. They had every opportunity to win that game, and they, for lack of a better way of putting it, they threw it away. And of course, when something like that happens, I think all those guys knew that some significant changes were coming, whether that be to the roster or you just never know as an athlete. That group's been together for quite a while, the foundational players. The coach had obviously been there for 9 years, and something was going to come to a head.
Well, we had the report from former Buffalo News reporter Vic Carucci saying that there was this meeting back in November that Sean McDermott just basically, in so many words, said, "I don't know about this roster." Did that seal his fate? For Terry Pegula to say, "I don't know of any meeting," I'm not believing that. I'll also ask you the question a different way, Lance. When Terry Pegula says, "I made my decision based off of the emotion I saw in that locker room," are right then and there, are you buying that?
No, I don't think he did a very good job of communicating through reporters to fans what he meant by that. It was accumulation of when he saw the scene in that locker room, and it was even worse than the others he had experienced throughout these really heartbreaking playoff losses over the years. It was he felt it was time. What stood out to me, though, guys, is that he admitted, no, this isn't something I considered before that game, and no, I didn't go back on my decision. Like, Terry Pegula didn't take a few hours or a day, 36 hours to consider whether to fire his coach after 9 years. He made up his mind in the heat of the moment. Now, he has every right to do that. There are plenty of logical reasons why you would fire Sean McDermott. The very top of that for me, guys, is that his defense failed in the playoffs. All the last 6 playoff losses, they gave up more than 30 points per game and over 400 yards per game. Your quarterback cannot save you time and time again. So in the end, you know what? He did a bad job communicating why it was. We shouldn't be surprised, though, that the time had come. It just had happened in such a messy way. And I'm not only referring to the press conference, but the way that it was handled, not talking to your quarterback beforehand, players finding out on social media, and then some of the callous messaging, callous reaction, I guess I would say, to that Terry Pegula showed when it came to just the players.
Yeah, and Lance, I know that he said during the press conference that they didn't have any intention or they didn't have any plan in place for after Sean McDermott. But man, I want to try and give Brandon Beane a little bit of credit. I mean, if you're a forward-thinking guy and you're thinking in his role, if this doesn't go well and we have to make a change, I better have an idea of who I'm going to bring in that's going to be better than Sean McDermott. Do you agree with that assessment?
Yeah, I agree with you wholeheartedly. I mean, you have a list. We hear that across professional sports. If you're a general manager or an owner, you have a list. It might not be written down, but you have people in mind. And I think we have seen that through the candidates that have been revealed up to this point, whether it be Brian Dable, of course, Joe Brady, but you even have some intriguing guys that I think they're bringing in to look at as potential coordinators, potential position coaches. To me, like, I know that, and again, we haven't seen – there's going to be coaches out of these conference championship games that they're going to bring in. We haven't seen the entire list so far. But to me, like, I really like the list that they've put together. It's a very fascinating group of candidates. Of course, it's disappointing for the Bills that it doesn't include Kevin Stefanski, who took the Atlanta job, or Harbaugh, who chose the New York Giants. But I still think this is it's a good starting point, and we're going to see where it takes them.
Yeah, Lance, we've been kind of debating, too. Do you want the head coach, and I don't know who that would be out of this group that would come in and have that sort of cachet that, hey, I have won the Super Bowl, and then Mike McCarthy, for example, his name isn't anywhere on this list. Or do you want the young, bright guy? And, Udinsky from Jacksonville is certainly a name. Maybe they wait on one of these guys that is still in the championship round here. But what do you think is needed here in this locker room right now?
I think, first of all, you need somebody, and I know you touched on it by playing that clip from Steve Tasker and Chris Brown, like, they need a leader. Like, that is what Sean McDermott is one of the best. Like, you go around, you talk to players throughout the locker room. He's one of the best leaders I think I've spoken to, that I've heard of. Like, he was a leader and a culture setter. So you need somebody who fits those two bills, because culture starts with people. All right. It's not like you can just hire somebody and assume they're going to pick up the baton that Sean McDermott dropped and run with the exact same culture. At the same token, it does not hurt to have new voices around Josh Allen and this team. They played tight in the biggest moments of the playoffs. Some new messaging, of course, would help. So I don't think that, I think the natural reaction, the natural instinct, I think, from some people is bring in Brian Dable. He's close with Josh Allen. He can bring a lot of what Sean McDermott did. I think you can't be afraid to be bold. You took a risk. Terry Pagula acknowledged that the risk that he took in firing Sean McDermott. Don't be afraid to do something that's a little bold. I'm not suggesting, even Phillip Rivers or some of these other people who might be considered outside the box. But don't be afraid to go outside the building. Whoever you hire doesn't have to be necessarily an offensive coach or somebody who's worked at one Bills drive. Let's face it, guys. Like, the offense hasn't been the problem in these playoff games. It's been the defense. So as much as I know maybe the temptation or maybe the natural instinct is going to be you have to get an offensive coach. That's going to make Josh Allen happy. Well, to me, like, the offense, even despite those turnovers in Denver, like, the offense has gotten it done in most of these playoff losses. It's the defense that failed. So I don't care who you bring in, whether it's a young coach, like Udinsky, or it's somebody experienced like Dable. What's your plan to fix the defense? Like, this has been such a huge problem for this team. You have no pass rush. You've got some really intriguing players. It's not like it's completely devoid of talent. You're just not getting enough out of those guys in the biggest moments. So I think ultimately, yes, we are going to see an offensive-minded coach. I think just that's the writing on the wall. That's at least where I think that they're trending here. But this isn't just offense. This isn't just Josh Allen. You have to consider all 53 players on this roster in terms of leadership, what the scheme is going to look like, and how you're going to fix that defense.
What are your thoughts on Anarumo? Because to me, like, his defenses have always shown up. He did the job against Kansas City. And could you pair Anarumo with, say, an offensive coordinator like Brian Dable? Like, what is Brian Dable's market outside of Buffalo right now, do you think, for just being an OC?
I think he has a lot of options in terms of being an OC, but he's waiting to accept one of those offers until he figures out whether he can get the shot. Now, Anarumo, I'm not as big of a fan. I feel like he had quite a bit of talent in Indianapolis this season, and statistically, they kind of stunk. Like, they should have been a lot better than they were. And I know that part of me wonders if this is gauging Anarumo in case he could be a coordinator fit, because he runs a lot of the Sean McDermott type of stuff, and he's gotten it done in the playoffs. Somebody certainly worth talking to, But if you're going to go with a defensive candidate, I don't think that that's where I would go. Like I'm more interested in talking to Chris Shula, the Los Angeles Rams defensive coordinator, even bringing in somebody like Vance Joseph, the Denver Broncos defensive coordinator. Those are the types of guys. If you're going to go defense, you're really going to have to sell me on that point. It's going to have to be the right person. And I like Anarumo as a coordinator, guys, but I can't get there for him as a head coach, especially the way that it's gone since he got Cincinnati to the Super Bowl, those defensive performances in the playoffs.
I'm with you, Lance. And I see a world where when we have a little bit more clarity after Sunday of who's still playing and who the Bills can talk to, the name that we haven't discussed yet, because he's 30 years old, and because he'd be the same age as your quarterback if he accepted the head coaching role after never being a play caller, would be Davis Webb. And I think about a guy like Davis or Clint Kubiak, but Davis Webb specifically in this instance. If you pair Davis Webb and you have Brian Daboll as your OC and say, I don't know, Anthony Weaver as your DC, I hear that and I think to myself, I don't hate that, even though there's a lot of risk there with a guy who's never been a head coach and a guy who's buddies with Josh Allen.
With those three specific people, I think Weaver is so underrated. When he had talent in Miami, he got the most of it. Look at his defenses in Baltimore. They were good, but I don't want Davis Webb as a head coach. With all due respect to Davis Webb, in that scenario, I want Brian Daboll as the head coach, and I want Davis Webb as the OC. And it's when you're, Davis Webb, he's got 3 years on the coaching staff in Denver. Never called plays. He's learned a lot from Sean Payton, guys, but I would much rather bring him in as an offensive coordinator and play caller under Brian Daboll than to take the risk on hiring him. And again, I know he's got the relationship with Josh Allen. Yes, he's a bright young coach who's probably going to be a head coach in this league, but you got to think about the circumstances this person's going to be walking into. I don't care what Terry Pegula said in that press conference in terms of the pressure they're going to be putting on this person in year one. There is going to be immense pressure that comes with this job. You got that new stadium opening. You got Josh Allen being 30 years old. There's a lot invested in this offense, including a running back who led the NFL in rushing, who's not getting any younger, they put a lot of tread on mileage on those tires this year. You got to win. And there's no waiting around for you to grow into the job. So if you're going young at head coach, it's got to be a perfect combination. And I'm going Udinski. If you're going that model, to me, it's Udinski. It's not Davis Webb. But and I don't see Brian Daboll wanting to come here as OC again. I just think it's head coach for him, or he's going to be an OC elsewhere. It just seems like kind of a step back for him to sit behind a 30-year-old coach in that scenario. But we'll see how it goes.
Lance, there's one thing I think that Terry Pegula did do right in the press conference, trying to give him credit, kind of sort of shielding Josh Allen. It was kind of weird saying that Allen didn't acknowledge him, but the conversation is private. This is not this is my decision. But nonetheless, I'm just curious to get your thoughts here on Allen, where his head will be at. There are so many things. The next time Josh Allen talks, I'm just going to be fascinated to hear what he has to say.
I wouldn't be worried about him being upset about this. Shocked probably in a lot of ways, probably some guilt based on the playoff performance, how close they got. I know how much he respects Sean McDermott. I know how much all those players in that locker room respect Sean McDermott, but Josh Allen also wants to win. And he does believe very much in Brandon Beane. Those two, they're close. He and Brandon Beane are close. Sean McDermott's Josh Allen's spoken about it. He believes in Brandon Beane. So I think a lot of this is going to be, what's this going to look like? And credit to the Bills, they did the right thing by inviting Josh Allen into the room for these interviews. He's earned that seat at that table. Now, he's not going to have final say, nor should he. This should be a Brandon Beane hire, not a Terry Pegula hire, not a Josh Allen hire. This should be a Brandon Beane hire. If Terry Pegula was so passionately defensive of his general manager, then let him pick the coach. Let him decide how this is going to go, what the vision is going to be. I think that Josh Allen needs to be there. He needs to ask questions. Every candidate that you interview wants to hear from Josh Allen, not only about the future, but the last couple of weeks, the last couple of years. What needs to change? They're going to be posing questions to Josh as much as they're going to be posing questions to ownership and management. That's very important in this process. I wouldn't worry about Josh Allen. He's going to be completely fine. It just, they got to get this right. Brandon Beane's going to get one swing of the bat, and he needs to hit a home run with this hire. And it's going to be tough because we're not going to know for a while whether he made the right one or not.
Lance, the most explosive statement from the press conference earlier this week was the conversation and dialogue around the wide receivers and specifically Keon Coleman. Is he on this roster week 1, 2026?
I think you have to keep him. Well, you just killed his trade value with your owner saying what he said.
Exactly.
And you don't have a lot of their cap space, especially if they're bringing in a new vision for defense with a new scheme. You're going to have to spend a lot more on defense again. Wow. You can get creative in adding to that wide receiver room, but I think it's unrealistic to expect them to swing a huge trade. Like, look at who's available as well. Like A.J. Brown, you think that bringing that personality with that demanding the football every other play is going to work and whatever offense they're going to run? No, it's just not going to work. So they need to, and that's what made it such a major slip up by Terry Pagula. I understand what you're doing. You're defending your general manager. And, hey, good for you. You should defend your general manager. That's the guy that you're handing the entire football operation over to. But you cannot do it at the expense of your players. This isn't somebody who's hitting free agency. This is a 22-year-old wide receiver who you invested a lot of not only time, but draft capital. You traded back with the Kansas City Chiefs to draft Keon Coleman. And I don't care who influenced your decision or who had the bigger voice at the table. If it was, their wide receiver coach's move or Joe Brady, it doesn't matter. Like, you needed to work with Keon Coleman. Otherwise, you're forced to dump him for a mid to late round draft pick, and good luck. Like, it's not going to be easy to fill out that wide receiver room. Like, yes, they can get out of the Curtis Samuel and Joshua Palmer contracts, but man, I do not like their chances of suddenly just completely revamping that room under difficult circumstances. They might lose 2 starting offensive linemen in free agency with David Edwards and Connor McGovern. I would want to pay at least one of those guys. So this is going to be really interesting. I think Keon Coleman, he'll get over it. He's a smart kid. He understands that he's getting a fresh start. Well, no matter how this goes, Keon's getting a fresh start, whether it's here or elsewhere. I know he would prefer it to be here, so you're not going to hear a peep out of him, and it's the right move.
Lance, when McDermott came from Carolina, the running joke is, they're bringing another Carolina guy, and for that matter, Bean. But McDermott, whether it's this year or next year, I believe will be a head coach in this league again. Just for the sake of this, like if he goes somewhere this year, where would that fit be best, and could we expect a lot of staff players, should they become free, to follow him?
For sure, and I think it all depends on does he convince Joe Brady to follow? If Joe Brady doesn't get the Buffalo job, does he follow Sean McDermott wherever McDermott goes? The 2 jobs that stand out to me right off the top of my head, and the ones that I've considered the last couple of days, Pittsburgh and Arizona. Sean McDermott's very, very close with Mike Tomlin, and although Mike Tomlin walked away from the Steelers job, the Rooney family very much cares about Mike Tomlin's opinion on people that they're going to interview, and I can guarantee you he put in a recommendation that they speak to Sean McDermott. And that's a situation where McDermott could get them into the playoffs immediately. That division's kind of weak. You just got to find him a quarterback, and don't be surprised that Mitch Trubisky follows Sean McDermott wherever he goes. I think that Mitch wants to start. Sean loves Mitch, and that is a bridge quarterback if I've ever seen one. Arizona's got some talent on defense. They need a vision. They need stability. They need leadership. But just the ownership piece there is kind of a mess. And Sean McDermott's going to have options, whether he jumps in now or jumps in a year from now. I'm surprised a couple of these organizations were in such a rush, like Tennessee. Why are you rushing to hire Robert Saleh? Like, I like Saleh, don't get me wrong, but like you could have just waited a few more days and brought Sean McDermott at least in for an interview. So yeah, he's going to get a job. We'll see. Like, Joe Brady might be a candidate to be the OC in Baltimore, so you might see some current Bills playing for the Baltimore Ravens next year. So naturally, when you have a coaching change, there's gonna be turnover, not only on the coaching staff but on the roster as well.
You mentioned some of the free agents. I mean, Trubisky going with McDermott makes a lot of sense. Reggie Gilliam. I mean, is there a more McDermott guy than Reggie Gilliam? Wherever McDermott goes, Gilliam is going to be right there as well.
He should be a Buffalo Bills guy. I don't know why they haven't signed him already. And talking to him at the end of the season, he was devastated because it's another off season in which he doesn't know where he's playing next year.
Yeah.
He's a year older. That guy is so important. I know your offense might change, but for what the cost is and the versatility, I don't know why you let him walk out the door. And if you do, you're going to regret it. And I expect if Joe Brady leaves and his calling plays elsewhere, wherever he goes, I guarantee you, not only Reggie Gilliam, but if Dawson Knox doesn't stay in Buffalo, you're probably going to see Dawson Knox following one of those two coaches wherever they go.
Lance, I'm expecting a big fine or some sort of fine for Terry Pegula for just kind of bringing up he didn't call it the officiating, but in your opinion, what did you see on that interception in Denver?
It was a catch. I'm not saying I have no allegiance, guys. I'm not biased. Based on every football game I've watched since I was a child, every call that we see every Sunday, including those that happened in other games last weekend, it's a catch. The officials, the league, they totally screwed up. They rushed it. Part of the reason was because the other game was delayed, I'm sure, and they were told, chop, chop, get this game played, no messing around. I think that's also why we saw all those flags in the final drive after they let them play for 4 quarters. So it was messy. Like the NFL, I wouldn't say they have a crisis on their hands when it comes to officiating, but I think the competition community needs to take a hard look at some of the calls that we've seen, not only at that specific one, but throughout the season, because there's just no consistency, right? And we have technology. We have all these different options. Just stop and look at that play. It was just such an important play in a game. You're not gonna take the time to look at it. It was, and in the end, if it's ruled an interception after you actually took the time to consider it, then okay, that's fine. But it was a terrible look for the league, and I'm sure Pegula's going to get fined. We'll never hear the details of that, but it's just a shame for a game to be decided the way that one was.
Lance, I don't have a ton of interest in the games on Sunday, but I'm curious to get your thoughts on who you think advances to the Super Bowl.
To me, it doesn't matter who wins in the AFC because whichever team it is going to lose in the Super Bowl to whichever team wins in the NFC. I don't think the New England Patriots. That's another reason why. Like, if you're a Bills fan, you should be like another reason to be devastated is neither of these, like the Broncos and the Patriots, aren't better than the Bills. Like, we could sit here and talk about roster and coaching or whatever. Like, the Bills are better than both of those teams, in my opinion. To me, I think it's going to be Seattle and New England in the Super Bowl. Seattle wins it. I just think Seattle and Los Angeles is going to be a really exciting game. That's the one I'm looking forward to. I don't want to sit around and watch 4 quarters of Jarrett Stidham, with all due respect.
Lance, let me just point out, you leave the Sabres beat, team starts to win.
Oh, man, this again, huh?
Well,
it every day,
I'm
guys.
sure you.
Hear
Well,
it every day.
all right. How do you think this team looks? Here's my concern. It's great, and you always hear this from hockey players, like, or any sport, like, hey, we want to get right back out there. You got this Olympic break coming up here, Lance. So,
that's
like,
tough.
Yeah,
Yep.
that's tough. So, like, your thoughts on, all right, how do you navigate past that trade deadline? We still have a lot of hockey left here.
The style of play is sustainable. They can make the playoffs playing the way that they are. And finally, I don't know the last time it's been since we've said that. Credit to Lindy Ruff. He finally got those guys to buy in. It took longer than anybody would have liked, but they were playing a brand of hockey that can get you in the playoffs. There are the big questions here. One's going to be leadership. Because not only the Olympic break, how you handle that, but how do you respond to like a 3-game losing streak? Every team hits a skid. You hit a tough part in the schedule. You lose the bounces don't go your way. A lot of bounces have gone their way recently. Not to take any credit away from them, but you watch some of these games and you're like, that doesn't happen to the Sabres that I know. Some of the goals they've scored, some of the penalties that are called, whatever it may be. And are you able to stay healthy at key spots? Now, Rasmus Dahlin had a maintenance day of practice today. Bubble wrap him as much as possible. Don't rush him out there to play the Islanders. Keep that guy healthy. There's just certain players that can't afford to lose, and they need 1 or 2 players. Let's be real. Like Yarmo's going to go get them 1 or 2 players. He's just got to get the right ones. I think they need another winger. The consistency hasn't been there for Jack Quinn yet. How much more time do they give him? And they need a right shot D. They need another right shot D because I like Kesselring, but the play hasn't been consistent enough so far, and he's gotten injured. Even if Connor Timmins comes back, they need depth there. So, but again, it's been a while since we've sat here and said, like, this team is like 2 players away from being in a real good spot, and I think they are two players away from being a real good spot. Goaltending's proven me wrong. Those, like, Ukko's playing the way that he did 2 years ago, and they got to keep it up. It's a marathon. It's not a sprint. They're handling it really well though, and they're looking like they're a playoff team. There's just going to be some more obstacles for them to overcome to get there.
I'm thinking to myself, Lance, at the trade deadline, if they're buyers, how do they not get Panarin? Breadman has to be on this roster down the stretch.
I don't even know if you have to aim that high. Like I don't know if you need that superstar, but you need somebody who's going to bring more consistency in play. Like the later you get in the year, the more tight checking it's going to be. The less you can afford to make some crucial mistakes. I like Jack Quinn as a person and a player. I always enjoyed, being around him. That's just a spot where I do have questions. Like, what's he going to look like? How is he going to play, and how's he going to hang when the spotlight is brightest and these games get to be even more difficult, right? And I don't think you need a top line forward right now. Like, it'd help if Josh Norris could actually stay healthy. That's another big one to keep an eye on. But, I like their lineup. Like Josh Stone, like the Paterka had to go. Like he did not like to play in Buffalo. He wanted out. He didn't want to sign here. And credit to Kevin Adams and his staff. They turned that trade into a gem. Like I hate to throw around the term home run too often because we do in professional sports. I'm as guilty as anybody, but man, like how can you have expected any better than to get somebody like Doan and a right shot defenseman like Kesselring? They position them like they're not where they're at with JJ Paterka on their roster, and I don't like to pick on the guy, but you're seeing less plays from this team where they're being careless with the puck. You're seeing less selfish plays from this team. You're seeing less plays where guys are giving up on the back. Like the power play is better because of a player like Doan. Like it was time. It wasn't going to work with Paterka with the style of play and what you needed on this team. And yeah, they made the most of it. So let's see what Yarmo can do because it was time for a change at GM. That was absolutely. Sure. We can go. I could have an hour-long conversation with you about that one, but what's he going to do to position this team down the stretch? Because it does need a little tweak. That's what I would say.
Lance Lysowski, Bills Coach Watch. What are you, Catherine, and Jay working on Buffalo News we can check out here on a snowy weekend here, Lance?
Well, Catherine's going down to the Senior Bowl this week, so we're going to have her ear to the ground to hear what's going on there. We'll have you covered every step of the way. We'll have boots on the ground at the Super Bowl, so going to be an interesting couple of weeks, that's for sure.
Lance, always appreciate the time, man. Be well, stay safe this weekend, and let's do it again soon.
Hey, take care, guys. Always a pleasure. Talk to you soon.
Lance Lysowski covering the Buffalo Bills for the Buffalo News, joining us here in the Sports Bar.
He made a convincing argument. Why not Lou Anarumo? Don't go that path.
Yes. I also like the argument against Davis Webb. In my mind, I'm thinking, yeah, I could see a young first-time head coach with little experience being the CEO if you surround him with good coordinators. But his point on Daboll is spot on. Why would Daboll come back here to be the OC? He wants to be the head coach, or he'll go be an OC somewhere else. That makes sense. I do like Weaver. They're going to interview Anthony Weaver tomorrow, and I like Weaver. Not as a head coach, but if you can somehow, if your head coach can bring him in to be the DC, yeah, sign me up for that guy.
Now, what about Grant Udinsky? I got to be honest. I don't know a lot. That's why we're inviting Mia O'Brien, our contact in Jacksonville. When we talked to her right before the Jags playoff game, who could have imagined? Okay, what would unfold here? Yes, Jacksonville season's over, but the whole Bills coaching staff gets blown up. Mia O'Brien, Action Sports Jacksonville, ESPN Radio down in Jacksonville as well, will be joining us. Yeah,
that'll be exciting, and by then we'll know. The Bills will have interviewed Grant Udinsky. That's Sunday that they're scheduled to interview him.
Yep.
So, and. If you don't know anything about him, do a little homework. Dig up some footage of him. He's bright. He's well-spoken. His story is compelling. I know I say that you have to have one of two paths to be an NFL head coach. Cover of Gentleman's Quarterly magazine or cup of coffee with Sean McVay.
Well, does that count, Kevin O'Connor?
Yes.
It does.
It does count. He's by extension, he is there. He's a baby branch on the coaching tree, but it does count, and he's an interesting cat. He comes off very impressive for only being 30 years old, in my opinion. So we'll learn more about him early next week after he's done with his interview with the Buffalo Bills on Sunday. More on the way in the Sports Bar, including your phone calls if you want to pull up a stool at 585-866-4FAN. And then DA is licking his chops to join us here as well. Damon Amendolara, host of the Bill Maddock podcast, and we'll recap the week that was. All on the way next on The Fan Rochester.
Time Pros had one partner for the whole job. Why juggle 10 different suppliers when one can do it all? At the Home Depot, you'll save with pricing built for pros. You'll stay on track with job site deliveries, scheduled, next day, or same day. And you'll get every size, every finish, every job lot quantity you need. One partner for the entire job. That's how pros get more done. The Home Depot Pro. It's about time.
I built this business the old-fashioned way. Hard work and a whole lot of spreadsheets.
Yeah, about that, I upgraded us to Odoo. Odoo puts everything we need, sales, inventory, accounting, on one connected platform. No more juggling systems, no more headaches.
So it all works together?
Exactly.
Odoo is the all-in-one business software that makes running and passing on a business easier than ever. Take your business into the next generation. Try Odoo free at odoo.com. That's ODOO.com.
The sports leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950 The Fan, Rochester. We don't just cover the Bills and Sabres. We're obsessed. Sprinkle in Amerks hockey, and you know why we are The Fan, Rochester. WROC AM, WBEE HD2, and W239BF Rochester. The sports leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950. The Fan, Rochester. An Odyssey sports station. The Fan, Rochester. Sports update.
Last on the Bills coaching search, as former Dolphins head coach Mike McDaniel is on the interview list, completing his interview today. Former Colts and Chargers quarterback Phillip Rivers. Steve Tasker offering his thoughts.
He knows the X's and O's, the offensive stuff. 17 years as a starting quarterback. He was on the point of the spear for an NFL team for 17 years as a quarterback, starting quarterback, and a very good one. So he knows offenses. He knows that cold, absolutely cold. But there's a million things about coaching an NFL team, being a head coach, that has nothing to do with any of that.
Well, Sunday the Bills will interview Jags OC Chris Udinski. We'll learn more coming up next. Mia O'Brien joining us. Amerks hockey tonight. Utica the opponent. Our coverage will begin at 7 o'clock. RIT hockey tonight, playing the home and home. First stop is in Niagara. Gene Battaglia, the sports leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950, The Fan, Rochester.
It's time to start the show and talk about the sports we saw. Inside jokes and takes from Danger and Battaglia. Bills and the Sabres and the Amerks. Who gave a microphone to these jerks? Welcome to the sports bar, that's where you are. Welcome to the sports bar, that's where you are. Welcome to the sports bar, that's where you are. With Danger and Battaglia.
Back in the sports bar with Danger and Battaglia, set to kick off your weekend. Championship Sunday on deck. A snowstorm on deck for a good part of the East Coast, and plenty of time for your calls at 866-4FAN if you want to pull up a stool and join us. We'll be joined later this hour by the host of the Bill Maddock podcast. That's DA, Damon Amendolara. And we'll be joined by Mia O'Brien, Action Sports Jackson, also ESPN Radio. You can watch the Sports Bar on our YouTube channel at The Fan Rochester, and, of course, stream along in the Odyssey, iHeartRadio, or TuneIn apps. As we welcome in Mia O'Brien. Good to talk to you again, twice in 3 weeks, Mia. It's always fun to catch up. Before we talk about Grant Udinski, I want to get your postmortem on the Jags season here and what the mood was like after the loss to Buffalo at home in the wild card round.
Yeah, comparatively, and it's kind of funny talking to, those who are affiliated in some form or fashion with the Buffalo Bills, because I felt like, looking back at 2022 when the Jaguars were ousted in the second round, in the divisional round, by the Kansas City Chiefs, that was a locker room in 2022 that was filled with tears, emotion, the sentiment of, well, it will never be the same group ever together again. This magic carpet ride had come to a close. And the scene that I saw here 2 weeks ago in Jacksonville was quite the opposite. There was anger, there was frustration, there was a sense of there ain't no way, that our season just ended. And for me, I walked away from it and said that's the type of fuel that can be used going into next year. And maybe that's just cliche and lip service, but felt a lot better comparatively to 22, where there were the tears and the crying, and that, quite frankly, you guys experienced in Denver last week with the Buffalo Bills. And so that's where, I mean, I don't want to try to put apples and oranges together, but they both are fruit. And so I took a positive out of the anger and frustration I saw in the Jags locker room.
Yeah, I've been in losing Bills locker rooms before and never saw anything like that. And now it leads us to a coaching search. And, there are some of the names that we know, but we up here don't know Grant Udinski. We know we've learned of Liam Cohen, but how much credit do you give Udinski? Well, let me just back up. What are your thoughts on the job that Grant Udinski did in Jacksonville last season?
Yeah, I wouldn't even just point to the job he did with Trevor Lawrence and certainly being that go-to figure for the quarterback, but I would go back to what his job was in Minnesota with Kevin O'Connell and that staff. He had kind of this nebulous title where essentially his real responsibility was you are responsible for J.J. McCarthy. And there are some up in Minnesota who believe that McCarthy's step back in his first real season on the field was in large part due to he didn't have that big brother figure of Udinski constantly being there as a sounding board for him. And so not that Trevor, I think, relied on Grant in the same fashion, but that is perhaps his greatest trait, is the fact that he is so cerebral. He is so willing to engage in conversation. I've heard from players that, they weren't used to getting a phone call at 12:15 in the morning. Hey, sorry, I missed your call, but I wanted to make sure I got back to you, from a coach. But when he's 29 years old and he's only a couple of years older than them, it's not too much of a surprise. And when you get to know Grant and the type of person he is and how much he values those one-on-one relationships, it's also not much of a surprise. And so I think that the cerebral nature, he's the type of guy, the first time we met with him, he wanted to talk to each member of the media for 5 minutes, get to know them. We have shared our mutual connections to VMI because my fiance's brother went there and Grant's brother went there, and they were there at the same time. And so like those are the sort of connections that, I don't know if you have with every single assistant coach or coordinator, but Grant went out of his way to constantly try to find ways to connect with us as media members, let alone the players on his team. And I think that he's a little bit more unassuming, whereas Liam Cohen, as you guys have even seen up there with the fiery locker room speeches and the Robert Saleh post-game interaction, is obviously a guy who, he walks into the room and he's in that room and he's that guy. And if you don't, you can hear him. Grant's not necessarily the same way, but I think the yin and the yang really balanced each other well here in Jacksonville this past fall.
Interesting. So, okay, as the OC in a Liam Cohen coached team, how involved was he? He wasn't playing. He wasn't making the play calls. Correct me. I mean, what was his? No. You mentioned he was in charge of J.J. McCarthy when he was with Kevin O'Connell. What was he in charge of in Jacksonville?
Yeah, I don't know his specific phase assignments. I can tell you it's weird. I don't know if maybe it's out there. I don't know what exactly his specific assignment was, if it was third down, or actually I know it wasn't third down because I know who it was on third down. If it was run game on certain downs, but each member of the Jaguars coaching staff was assigned a certain phase or certain scenario on the offensive side of the ball. So not sure off the top of my head how many of those scenarios Grant took responsibility for. Yes, Liam Cohen designed the offense. Yes, Liam Cohen is the primary play caller, but Grant stands next to Liam, and he is also the one who, again, as soon as the offense comes off the field, he's the one who's sitting with Trevor Lawrence, as well as quarterback coach Spencer Whipple, who is one of Liam's longtime friends from their time together at UMass as players. And therefore, it's a good balance, and I think in terms of having a role in the game planning, but then also not being so involved in the actual play calling that you can't take a step back and focus on the individual players. But as far as, he like every other coach on the team was assigned some scenario. I just don't know which, and I don't want to speak out of turn on that.
Yeah, I did so many questions about Grant Udinski. Our guest here is Mia O'Brien, Action Sports Jack. What do we know in regards to who else may be out there? That is true, correct, that Cleveland is interested in his services? Are there any other teams that you know of, Mia?
Yeah, so he's in Cleveland right now. He is doing an in-person interview, second round, with the Haslams and friends. Now, the expectation is that Cleveland's search will continue into next week because they are also very excited to speak with Nate Shieldhouse, the passing game coordinator of the Los Angeles Rams. I will add this to the conversation. Liam Cohen had 3 finalists for OC last year: Nate Shieldhouse, Grant Udinski, and Tavita Pritchard. Nate Shieldhouse pulled out of the search at the 11th hour because he got a upgraded position on Sean McVay's staff. And, of course, even if he was to have been named the OC here in Jacksonville, he would not be the primary play caller. So he opted to go back to that L.A. nest for one more year. And then Tavita Pritchard is now the head coach at Stanford. And so I would argue that if Liam Cohen thinks Grant Udinski is a bright offensive mind, all three of those guys are looking like they're pretty bright offensive minds, and the rest of the league echoes that sentiment. And so as far as right now, Grant just has the second-round interview today in Cleveland, talking with the Buffalo Bills at some point back here in Florida this weekend. I believe it's Sunday. No other requests at this time for the Jags OC.
Would Udinski go to be an OC with another team if he had the ability to call plays?
I personally don't believe so, just because Nate Shieldhouse, well, yes, they've never worked together, is the primary example of he bet on himself. He said no to a non-play calling OC job here in Jacksonville, essentially by pulling himself out of the search. Bet on, I'm going to go back to Sean McVay for one more year as the passing game coordinator, and not only will I get OC interviews next cycle that will allow for me to be the primary play caller, I'm going to get head coaching interviews too, and he's been requested by 5 different teams. So if you're Grant, I would argue, especially because they're all part of this same tree, you would see much of the same, knowing that KOC and Shieldhouse, Grant's former boss, also have that Rams overlap. And so really interested to see what happens, though, because Jeff Hafley going down to Miami, his ties to not only Anthony Campanelli, the defensive coordinator here in Jacksonville, but there's a lot of rumors that Brian Angelico, the passing game coordinator in Minnesota, who actually was the one who brought Grant from the Carolina Panthers and Matt Rule to KOC in Minnesota, that he could be in contention to be the play calling OC down in Miami, go Ithaca College Bombers, because Angelico, of course, coached at Ithaca for a while there. That would be interesting. Does that mean, if Campanelli gets a job, does he try to bring Grant with him? I think a lot of that is certainly I'm not going to rule it out as a possibility, but I ultimately think that Shieldhouse is kind of that shining example of if you are still hovering around the age of 30, which Grant is, and Shieldhouse is not, you can afford to bet on yourself and take that one extra year, and then it'll pay dividends down the road.
Mia, a question about the Jags going into this offseason, because if you've seen the Bills' wide receiving core, it's a need, right? Is Brian Thomas really possibly available, or is this just kind of unfounded internet speculation?
I think it's internet speculation. I don't think the Jags will ever rule anything out, but certainly Liam Cohen and James Gladstone tried to largely put the kibosh on that at their season-ending press conference last week. Now, if someone comes at you with 2 first-round picks, you'd be foolish not to certainly pick up the phone and have a conversation. Now, there's also people here in Jacksonville saying that the Jags are going to trade for Max Crosby for 3 first-round picks, and I think that is a little too rich even for Max Crosby's tag, so let alone 2 1s for Brian Thomas. And so they're going to answer the phone, but they always answer the phone. That's the beauty of having James Gladstone as your general manager. He's not afraid to strike up a conversation with that tree over there, let alone other GMs around the league.
Mia, we've seen Trevor Lawrence have his ups and his downs in his pro career, finalist for MVP this year, which is exciting, and he had a great season. Nobody can take that away from him. Do you expect that to continue next year two in the Cohen? Do you expect him to even be better in year 2 with Liam Cohen as his head coach? What's your outlook on Trevor Lawrence moving forward?
Yeah, I do expect him to be better because there's so many who've studied the position much more than I have nationally. Decades upon decades, they've stressed that this is a system that is the most complicated that Trevor Lawrence has had to learn in his career. And, of course, Trevor Lawrence has had to learn arguably in, 5 years in the NFL, he's learned 4 different playbooks or something like that. And so the fact that this is the most difficult one, and by season's end, the final 8 weeks of the regular season, he was cooking with gas. Yeah, the expectation is that he will take the next step. I'm really curious to see how they fortify the rest of the ecosystem around him to continue to not only take some of the load off of 16, but to also create more opportunities for him and where his game can best be exemplified.
Last one for me, Mia. As I look at, the division, now mind you, we haven't gotten to free agency. We haven't gotten to the draft. But that being said, looks pretty good for Jacksonville to repeat, especially from what did you witness here with Houston? Because I cannot believe that C.J. Stroud took the steps backward he did this season. It almost makes me think, what's really going on there?
Well, I can tell you this, so much for his representation, hoping to get that nice $60 million per year contract this offseason, huh, boys? Right. Because you got to pay Willie Anderson. after his second All-Pro appearance of his young career. So that's first and foremost if you're Nick Caserio. And number two, I mean, at this point in time, you're glad you signed Davis Mills to an extension and that he's going to be around a little bit longer, because you may have to turn to Mills if this continues with Stroud. And I don't have an answer. And I mean, partially, I do want to look at it and say, hey, he has had a lot of concussions, and so I don't want to rule out the effect of that injury. But at the same time, it's as if you took Tank Dell, who many speculated whether or not he could even be a capable NFL wide receiver given his size. You took him out of the ecosystem, and everything fell apart like a deck of cards for C.J. Stroud, and in terms of his vision and ability to see the field. And so, yeah, shocking to say the least, but there were a lot of warning signs from folks nationally in Houston early on in the season. And while, yes, the Texans rattling off 9 straight wins was extremely impressive, and it's a testament to Miko Ryans and his ability as a head coach, never really felt like the quarterback was the reason they won those 9 games. And don't forget, the win that started that streak against the Jags, Davis Mills was under center for the Houston Texans.
Mia O'Brien, Action Sports Jax. You also hear her on ESPN Radio. I would ask you to give you the floor and ask you to tell us where we can get more of your work, but I think we'll run out of time. We're on the air until 6. Follow you on X, Mia. Is that the best way to get all of your work?
Yep, at Mia O'Brien TV. That's where you can follow everything. And I will be on ESPN Radio this Sunday, 6 to 10 p.m., covering the AFC NFC Championship games.
Awesome.
Fantastic. Mia, appreciate you carving out for a few minutes for us today.
Absolutely. Happy to hop on. Have a great weekend, boys.
You got it. Mia O'Brien. She's awesome. Down in Jacksonville, covering the Jags and giving us a little insight on Grant Udinski, who's coming in Sunday. Well, actually not coming here, but down in Florida. We'll interview for the Bills head coaching position on Sunday.
I don't know, Jim. I like hearing that it's a coach, again, that you could see on the fast track, but this is skipping a few steps, right? Okay, we knew he wasn't a play caller. What was he exactly responsible? That still feels like to me that was Liam Cohen down there. And I know, okay, maybe he's bright. Maybe he can knock the interview out of the park. When you hear her tell the story, like, hey, I want to meet, reporters and learn a little bit about you and try to form that connection. That's a really good skill to have when you're interviewing.
I get the impression that he is very bright. You just watch some video of him or any interview with him, and you say, okay, this guy is sharp. He is a bright, smart guy. Not having ever called a play, like that's why I asked the question about him, if he gets a chance to be a first-time play caller, would he consider a lateral move and being OC for another team? And that, I know that the interview is for head coach, but this is also like, hey, I want to learn more about these guys. And maybe it isn't head coach. Maybe it is, you're not going to be our head coach, but when this all shakes out, you would be a great DC or a great OC. We would love to have you on as a play call.
Right, like for anybody that is like, oh my gosh, what an S show. I've seen this from people. You're interviewing Phillip Rivers,
No.
you fools. Would you not want Phillip Rivers as your quarterback coach? If he really wants to take this path and he's gotten in, that even being that he and Josh Allen share the same agent, and you say, hey, Josh, can I interview? What, they're going to say no?
And the world has changed. I remember when Houston wanted to interview Josh McCown to be their head coach, and he was coaching high school. And we were laughing and pointing and like, no, now I think they have to cast a wide net, not only because it's just a good practice, but you never know. You just don't know. And McCown has been bouncing around as a quarterback's coach here or there. If he keeps up at it, eventually a guy like that might end up a head coach. But it does take time. And maybe it is premature to think a guy like Udinski or a Davis Webb are ready to be an NFL head coach without play calling experience. But you don't lose anything by having the conversation and learning more about them.
DA in his latest Bill Maddock podcast explains why. What was it exactly that was off the mark on that press conference?
Oh.
So, he's got some thoughts, and we'll quiz him on what he thinks the Bills should do going from here. My gosh, you think of the last time we talked to DA. Yeah, it'd be Denver. Yeah.
Great matchup. Yeah, the world changes pretty quickly. DA, Damon Amendola, host of the Bill Maddock podcast and Sirius XM. He'll be joining us next on The Fan.
Expect light snow, blowing snow, and snow showers with a low of 4.
Weather brought to you by Duke's Mayo. Welcome to Duke's Mayo Country, where the mayo is so smooth and creamy, it makes every bite better. Duke's Mayo. Look for the yellow lid.
The Fan Rochester Sports Update.
The latest on the Bills' coaching search is former Dolphins head coach Mike McDaniel. He's on the list, as is former Colton Chargers quarterback Phillip Rivers. Rivers' interview is now complete. Brownie and Tasker offering their thoughts.
What's the culture going to be like with Phillip Rivers?
Yeah, I mean, the people that play with him say he is a natural, authentic leader, and I think we all have agreed that the number one job requirement of an NFL head coach is to be a leader of men. I think there's a slight nuance difference from leading a team as a quarterback and leading a team as a head coach. It's different.
Now, Sunday, the Bills will interview Jags OC Chris Udinski. DA Damon Amendolara, the Bill Maddock podcast, will join us next year in the Sports Bar. Amherst Hockey tonight, Utica coming to town, the first of 6 straight home games for Rochester. Our coverage will begin at 7 o'clock. RIT tonight playing at Niagara. Team Battaglia, the sports leader, the Fan Rochester.
Neat or on the rocks? It's the Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia on the Sports Leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950 The Fan, Rochester.
We have a lot to unpack with the host of the Bill Maddock podcast. You hear him on Sirius XM. It's our buddy DA, Damon Amendolara, stopping by one last time for this season in the Sports Bar. DA, it's great having you on. It's been great having you on all season. Wish we were talking about the Bills in the AFC Championship game, yet it was that horrible loss in Denver and everything. Now the aftermath and a wild, crazy week for the Buffalo Bills firing their head coach, the press conference, the catch that wasn't a catch, the emotion afterwards. And maybe we start with this because Gene and I have been discussing all week that the emotion we saw from this locker room, from this quarterback, is something like we haven't seen before, almost as if they knew that losing this game was going to cost their head coach his job.
Yeah, it's interesting how it unfolded in that way. Although I think it caught us all off guard when they actually did fire Sean McDermott. So it does make me wonder whether they knew something we didn't, or if this was just emotionally, instinctually for them, this kind of feeling of we've hit the end of the road on something. I just wonder about, if they could have known, because they all did seem quite stunned that McDermott was fired, at least what we heard on or saw on social media. And I did a video about this the day after, kind of picking through psychologically why, after all of these heart-wrenching, gut-wrenching, traumatic playoff losses that they should be used to by now, why did Josh Allen break down and Deion Dawkins break down and all these guys break down after this one? And my theory was that I think you could consciously or maybe subconsciously rationalize losing to the same team over and over again, like the Chiefs. And then when you lose to a different team in the same kind of cataclysmic way, I think there just might be what happens if it's never our time? If this was a moment for us, what happens if it's never our time? And I do think that Josh Allen cares so much about being the savior here in Buffalo and for Western New York and for Bills fans that he wears this so heavy, and it really killed him. It crushed him that he had let him down again, that maybe he would never be able to do this. And I think the weight of this drought and the weight of the pressure of having Josh in his prime and don't waste this finally broke the dam. And because of it, despite all of the black eye that was there for the PR and for Terry and for everything, and Brandon Beane this week, it might have just been the absolute mandatory decision to make a change at quarterback because they had hit this emotional wall after Saturday.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, you could make the argument clearly that you could make this move, but in your latest episode, the way they sold it, or as you put it, the tone. I mean, that press conference, we broke in live on our programming, Danger and I just staring at each other, mouth agape, can't believe that this is the way you're rolling this out to your fan base.
Yeah, and it's really unfortunate because the substance of the press conference, there was a lot that could have rallied the fan base into believing, okay, you know what, this was the right move. I mean, like we were just talking about, if you just said, hey, they've hit an emotional wall, and it is time to change something. We had to do this to get to a Super Bowl. That's an easy rallying cry. If you thank Sean McDermott overtly and make sure he is honored on the way out, you can earn the respect of the listener base, of the audience, of the fan base that really thought he might have gotten a raw deal. And you can take a lot of responsibility and understand where and empathize with where the fan base is on all of this. But what you can't do is point fingers. What you can't do is drive the bus over Sean McDermott when he's not there to defend himself. What you can't do is point the finger at the critics, which is all the things they did. And what you really can't do if you're Terry Pegula is jump in on questions about roster decisions to the acting general manager and say, no, I've got this one, because then it just feels like a dad going to a little league meeting and saying, I'm going to argue for my kid to make the starting job. I don't even want you to have to question this. And that is the worst look, because it seems like Brandon Beane can't even speak for himself, up on top of the questions about why he should have survived and been promoted. So the tone of everything on Wednesday was so bad, even though there was a lot in the press conference that I think Bills fans would have wanted to hear, which is Beane taking accountability. Josh Allen is going to be in the decision-making process. It's Super Bowl or bust, and that's the expectation. All those things got kind of camouflaged because of how bad the tone was.
Yeah, I mean, a little bit of humility, I think, would have gone a long way. It's almost as if we don't need to hear from the owners of these professional teams in a press conference setting ever, unless it's a prepared statement. Like, we just don't need them fielding questions, because it just comes off. I feel like more times than not, it comes off poorly. And now you're Brandon Beane, and you got to figure out, what am I going to do with Keon Coleman, because he got no trade value after he just got thrown into this mix. I mean, is Keon Coleman on this roster? Week 1, it almost feels like he has to be, because there's nobody that's going to trade for him based on what the owner just said about him.
Yeah, if somebody wanted to trade for him because they thought they could rehabilitate him, you're getting absolutely nothing in return, because everybody now knows your hand in that, he's kind of this representation of the mistakes of some type of, power struggle behind the scenes and some type of misidentification of talent. I pointed this out in one of my videos this week, and it's amazing. I've done basically a video every single day, because the Denver game feels like 2 months ago. Yeah. I can't believe that. I looked at my calendar and I was like, wait a second, that was only last weekend? But I pointed out in one of my videos this week that it's unfortunate that Keon Coleman's kind of become the ink blot test through which everything in the Bills organization is now viewed in, because a second-round wide receiver should never have to be a referendum on anybody. That's kind of a ridiculous thing, but Beane put himself in this position by getting defensive on the radio last offseason about the wide receivers. Then, of course, the wide receivers not performing well and being an obvious eyesore this year. And then, Keon Coleman failing a couple of meeting tests over the course of the season and getting deactivated. And then, this kind of like, don't blame the roster. How dare you guys think Brandon Beane didn't do a good job from Terry Pegula? And then Pegula, of all the things to say, that Brandon Beane was just being a good teammate by falling on the grenade, when we have video from the cameras at the combine before his draft that showed Beane being obviously very interested in Keon Coleman, all made for this really terrible Spider-Man meme, which is like, no, it's not my fault, it's your fault. No, it's not your fault, it's this guy's fault. And that whole thing is so unfortunate, not only because a second-round wide receiver should never be a referendum on any organization's like Super Bowl abilities, but also because, just as you said, humility was needed in that press conference, and instead it was passing the buck.
It's ironic, too, because Coleman makes a play in the Jacksonville game. He stretches out. He scores in the Denver game. Maybe there's some things you could build out into year 3. DA joining us. DA, the idea, and you've heard this, that this was a half measure, and certainly Brandon Beane, I don't think he did himself any favors getting all defensive, when this was not a power play, and how dare you even, but your thoughts on Beane coming back. Should he have been out too?
So this is really complicated, and it's why I actually earnestly believe the Buffalo Bills at this juncture are the single most interesting story in sports. There is so much weight on everything right now, and the Brandon Beane thing is part of it. If I were to defend why Brandon Beane should come back, it would be you don't want to remove too many Jenga pieces from a tower that has been this close for this long. And if you remove everything and you're spinning the wheel on two new guys, you lack the consistency or continuity to take advantage of the fact that you have been a really good team. And the stats are so mind-blowing that over the last 6 seasons, the Buffalo Bills have more wins, more points scored, the fewest points allowed, and the best point differential in the NFL. That is mind-blowing. I mean, we all know they're a good team, but that suggests that they're the best football team over the last 6 years with no Super Bowl appearances to show for it. So you can make the argument that Brandon Beane being there is actually a really good thing for the organization, that if you had to make a change with one or the other. And again, if I was going to make the argument to keep Brandon Beane and to relieve McDermott of his duties, you would say, well, the message in the locker room is a vital part of this. And for McDermott, the message might have been kind of glossed over in another year, trying to do the same thing again. So you know what? Remove that part. Keep Brandon Beane as part of the power structure, and that actually could be the perfect way to marry this. Of course, now there's two issues to that. Number one, it's Brandon Beane objectively has done a worse job than Sean McDermott, so it's hard to keep him and not Sean McDermott. The second part is the promotion, so it feels like he got rewarded by doing a worse job, and which creates the optics that there was a power struggle and he won it. And the third part of this is that Brandon Beane's attitude does not reflect Western New York and Bills fans' identities. Brandon Beane comes off with the guy with the sunglasses, sneering down his nose as the smartest guy in the room. That is not Bills fan. Sean McDermott comes off as hard as nails, tough worker. It's about the team. It's not about me. I don't want the glory. I want to do this for you guys in the city of Buffalo. Like he was defending the city in the press conference. That's who we identify with. That's who Bills fans identify with. So it just feels like the wrong guy was kept. And so it's this totally complicated emotional, psychological thing here. And then you have to add into it what Terry Pagula talked about at the press conference, which was how traumatic this thing has been with his wife, understandably. And that's why he's receded from the spotlight. And that's how you could also understand how Brandon Beane has been elevated, because he's a known, he's a confidant. Terry has gone through in his family incredibly great strain through Kim's illnesses or health difficulties. And so I think part of holding on to Brandon Beane is I need somebody that I trust in this room, because I'm kind of lost at sea right now in my family. So again, it makes it so complicated. But you wish it didn't have. You wish it could be clearer and more simple, but it just isn't because of the parties involved.
You know, that is probably the clearest and best explanation I've heard all week, DA, of why you keep Beane if you're Terry Pagula. And you know, it's the thing that I think we as fans forget the most, the human element behind all of this. We see the billionaire owner who, you know, is really an alien. We can't comprehend his lifestyle or how he goes about his day-to-day business because we don't have that level of wealth. Yet he is still a human, and he is still dealing with a wife who has medical concerns, and that's a strain and a toll on a family, and something that probably takes away a little bit of focus on who should we draft in the first round this year. Having a guy like Beane at minimum is a security blanket, and I guess it puts an even more greater emphasis on making sure that Beane gets the right guy for this job. What are your thoughts on the list of candidates that they've talked to, including today? We find out Phillip Rivers and Mike McDaniel. I mean, this is, if anything, it appears as if they are casting a wide net, which is a good thing.
I think so, too. I think it's a good thing that they're going after offensive guys, defensive guys, guys with Buffalo ties, guys that don't have Buffalo ties, young guys, old guys, former players. I think that is good. I worry a little bit that it's a little too unfocused. It seems like you're just really throwing darts at this point in time. But I don't have a great sense of any of these candidates yet. And I guess none of us will, because we're not in these meetings. But what I do think is this hire is not only one of the most important in the NFL this year, it might be one of the most important in the NFL in decades because of what is at stake here. And the general manager knows it, and the owner knows it. I mean, you fire Sean McDermott because you have to get to a Super Bowl. So whoever walks into this job, that's the baseline. There is no other, it's okay to win the division and get to an AFC championship game. No. That is the baseline expectation, which I think, I know there were some national pundits over this week that said what happened on Wednesday in the press conference would scare off candidates. I don't agree with that. And I don't agree with that because if you are a candidate in any job cycle, I would think, especially in coaching where all these guys are alphas and they want the greatest success, you want an organization that not only can get to a Super Bowl, but demands getting there. I mean, and that's the tone of this week. They got there in a really messy way. But everybody in the interview is, hey, can you win us a Super Bowl? And what's it going to take? That's got to be really enticing, really, really enticing to somebody who's hyper-competitive. So I hope that it susses out the right guy. And in some ways, the scrutiny on Brandon Beane this week to make him squirm at that press conference might be exactly what is needed to make sure everybody in that building, specifically Brandon Beane, is not comfortable with somebody who makes them comfortable. They must hire somebody that they truly believe is the only guy that can get this job done. And maybe it scares them enough to be like, we have to nail this. Because, I mean, right? If they go 13-4 next year and win a playoff game and lose again, it's a failure. It has been identified. That is not okay here, which is kind of what everybody wants, I think. I think everybody in the Bills Mafia says that has to be the North Star.
DA, I'm fascinated to next time we hear from Josh Allen what he has to say after a loss like that in his worst performance. And now going into a new frontier. And we've heard it both ways here. Like, this is almost unprecedented. I don't know any other instance in NFL history where, hey, a player is actually going to be right there, seat at the table, involved in the interview process for the next head coach. Where do you come down on that? Is that because he's Josh Allen, he's earned this? Or should we be a little leery knowing, all right, well, if you're Josh Allen, you'll want Brian Daboll. Maybe he's not the best guy for the job. Your thoughts on Allen coming out of this?
I think it's okay that he's going to have a voice and a significant voice in this because this is really about him. You can change out every other piece on this roster. And if every single other piece was swapped out going into next season, you'd say the Bills still have a chance to win a Super Bowl. This whole thing, the timing is we have to do it now because of Josh's age. That is, again, the kind of guillotine hanging over everything, which is why it makes the Bills the most interesting story in sports. The clock continues to tick in the background of this movie. If this is why you have to make a change, because we have to win a Super Bowl now, because we have a superstar quarterback, perhaps a Hall of Fame quarterback in his prime right now, then he has to be involved. He has to. He cannot be on the outside. I would say if there is a comp that I can think of, and I've been racking my brain all week about what is the historic comp, the closest thing really is John Elway. Now, Elway had been to 3 Super Bowls and lost them all. Josh obviously hasn't been to 1. But we got to John Elway's 30s. He had Dan Reeves and Wade Phillips, and it just wasn't getting done. And Pat Bowlen was a very aggressive owner and said, we have to do this before John Elway gets too old. And he looked at John and said, what will it take? And John Elway said, it's Mike Shanahan, my old coordinator. And that hire is because of John Elway's familiarity with Mike Shanahan. And of course, Shanahan was in the organization, but if you wanted to draw the line with a Brian Daboll or something like that, that's the direct line. And it worked. Now, they had to have Terrell Davis, and they had Shannon Sharp, and they brought in Neil Smith, and they had a Hall of Fame safety as well in Atwater. So they had other pieces. It wasn't just Mike Shanahan, but there's a line of, to the quarterback, we haven't gotten it done at this point of your career. What can we do? And he identified the right guy. And boy, if it turns out that they get Mike Shanahan to Josh Allen, John Elway, then that's the greatest thing that could happen.
DA, Gene had his TV producer hat on. He's already got the visual in his head of confetti raining down at Mile High for Stephon Diggs and the side-by-side.
The side-by-side.
Right,
There's
the
Diggs
Diggs
looking in
upsetting.
Kansas City.
Yeah, exactly right. There's Diggs despondent in Kansas City with the confetti raining down. And here's Diggs jubilant with the confetti raining down after winning the AFC Championship at Mile High. I just want to get your take on this weekend's games, man. I'm so... as a Bears and a Bills guy, I'm so just like, oh, God, I'm not interested in either of these games, but I love football so much that I'm going to watch. I don't have a rooting interest, and I really don't care how these games end up. But where are you at with the AFC and NFC championship games on Sunday?
Yeah, fans of the old TV sitcom Community will remember this reference. This is the darkest timeline. To have the New England Patriots good again, and to have them on the doorstep of a Super Bowl and all they have to do is beat Jarrett Stidham feels completely unfair. I mean, let's just face it. And Stephon Diggs is on the team. It just seems completely unfair for all the pain and the heartache that Bills fans have suffered through, or Browns fans, or Lions fans, or Chargers fans, or Dolphins fans, or all these godforsaken franchises that have been nowhere for so many years. We'll throw the Bears in there as well. For the Patriots to not only be back so soon, but to have to go through a backup quarterback that hasn't thrown a pass in 2 years feels completely unfair from the football gods. It is the darkest timeline. So we can only hope that Stidham balls out and pulls a Jeff Hostetler or a Nick Foles and wins, because then it is a crushing loss for Patriots fans, and we get to laugh at them for at least a calendar year and perhaps even more. So it must happen. It's the only way to balance the scales here. And I will say that the football gods have helped us out in Patriots land before in the 2007 Super Bowl. If the Patriots also had the greatest season of all time, an undefeated season, we would never hear the end of it. So the gods knew that they had to upset the apple cart at least that time. And then Nick Foles did it again, and Eli did it again. Maybe they're at the ready again on Sunday, because I'm sorry, guys, I cannot do 2 more weeks of Patriots football. I can't do it. I won't do it, and I'm just hoping that Jarrett Stidham has a game in him.
Chris writing in here on X, listening to DA is the first time in 72 hours I've actually felt a little bit okay as a Bills fan. So
good. People. Here I am. I'm sprinkling a little bit of Zubaz cheer in the air. That's good.
Okay, so Bill Maddock podcast and the football content, we're reaching the off season, but it's still going to roll around. DA, what can we kind of expect here?
Yeah, I began this project. I mean, I do a morning show on Sirius XM and then a Sunday morning show on Sirius XM NFL Radio, and we talk a lot of football, obviously, especially on NFL Radio. But I began the project about the Bills in the off season going into the year because it was such an important year in Bills land, and because of the end of the stadium. I love the history of the game. And after a year of doing this and building up a community and kind of understanding what makes Bills fans tick, and having best friends that are all in a group thread about the Bills and coming on your show every week, I was just like, this is such an important moment in time for the Bills. I'm going to keep doing this every single day. Wow. And so if it's not a Bills story, it'll be largely Bills stories throughout certainly this cycle and the draft and the offseason, but I'm going to do football content every single day anyway, whether it's the Bills or not. So, yeah, if you're on YouTube, find me there and subscribe, and that way you'll get connected to fresh football content throughout the year. I'm kind of a football geek, and so it excites me to talk about draft and free agency and schedules and everything like that. But the moment in time for the Bills is so intense. This thing is so intense that I just find it so captivating every single day. And I know so many Bills fans that it's so important that I really feel like it's important to document it as best as I can. So, yeah, the YouTube channel is just going to keep kicking throughout the off season with fresh content every day. Fantastic.
And you're doing an unbelievable job, bud. Really appreciate you giving us the time that you have through the course of this season. And you're right. It feels the game on Saturday feels like it was 2 months ago, but the season goes by way too fast, and it won't be too long before we start hearing the click, click, click of the roller coaster ride that is the NFL season. In 2026 is going to look a little bit different for the Buffalo Bills, D.A. I hope we have the chance to do this again. Yeah, anytime, especially draft and free agency and everything like that. Let's do it again. And
Yeah, would love to see anybody that's listening right now. I'm probably going to go up to a Syracuse basketball game as well, go see my alma mater. So if anybody's out there at Carrier Dome or whatever it's called now, JMA Wireless, check me out on social media, and I'll let everybody know what game I'm going up to. It would be great to say hello.
You know, they did lose to BC, too. Like, that whole day was just horrible.
Oh, that was a bad day.
Horrible.
It's a bad day. So it's been a bad season. Yeah, exactly.
Thanks, DA. Talk to you soon, bud.
All right, guys.
There he is. Damon Mendelera, Bill Maddock Podcast. Check him out on YouTube. Just fantastic to have him on with us through the course of the season. Loved it. Loved every second.
Fantastic. Yeah, it just great insight. And, we got a lot to kind of discuss here.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're just kind of getting in your car, maybe you haven't heard, Mike McDaniel is added to the list this morning. That interview has yet to be completed. Phillip Rivers' interview completed. That is done. Grant Udinski will be on Sunday. There's another report that the Bills are going to fly to Los Angeles tomorrow to meet with Anthony Lynn.
Okay.
Former Bills running back coach and interim head coach.
Bills interviewing Anthony Weaver tomorrow as well, according to reports. That's the Miami Dolphins defensive coordinator who's also been taking interviews. He's got an interview with the Steelers today. So, the interview cycle continues with the Buffalo Bills. We'll keep you posted along the way. We'll break down all of these potential candidates next. Happy hour is upon us. Join us at 866-4FAN, 585-866-4326.
You're listening to the Sports. HD2 Rochester and streaming online and in the Odyssey app at The Fan Rochester. The sports leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950. The Fan Rochester, an Odyssey sports station. The Fan Rochester Sports Update.
2 new names added today to the Bills coaching search. Former Dolphins head coach Mike McDaniel is going to get an interview. Completing his interview today, former Colts and Chargers quarterback Phillip Rivers. Brownie and Tasker offering their thoughts.
He knows the X's and O's. The offensive stuff, 17 years as a starting quarterback. He was on the point of the spear for an NFL team for 17 years as a quarterback, starting quarterback, and a very good one. So he knows offenses. He knows that cold, absolutely cold. But there's a million things about coaching an NFL team, being a head coach, that has nothing to do with any of that.
Sunday, the Bills will interview Jags OC Chris Udinski. Emirates hockey tonight. They're home against Utica. Our coverage will begin at 7 o'clock. RIT hockey tonight playing at Niagara. The college football playoff will remain at 12 teams next season. Gene Battaglia, the sports leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950, The Fan Rochester.
It's time to start the show and talk about the sports we saw. Inside jokes and takes from Danger and Battaglia. Bills and the Sabres and the Amherst. Who gave a microphone to these jerks? Welcome to the sports bar, that's where you are. Welcome to the sports bar, that's where you are. Welcome to the sports bar, that's where you are. With Danger and Battaglia.
Happy hour in the sports bar as we get ready to hunker down for another weekend of action. We're looking forward to it. It's Championship Sunday. It's a Saturday without any NFL football, Gino. I'm struggling with that. I mean, I guess that's where we get caught up on our projects. You're going to start working on your taxes. I'll get some home improvement stuff done.
Oh, no. You should just hunker down for fear, Mike Danger.
Fear?
We will have
this guy?
many inches of snow.
Oh, no. It's the Count.
I am Count Hetzko. Make sure you watch tonight, 13 VAM News, because...
Wait, VAM?
13 VAM. That is the station.
VAM? What's VAM?
WHAM.
Oh, Wham! 13 Wham News. I see. Okay.
The fear is the great motivator to have you watch television.
How many inches are we getting?
No, maybe feet. 1, 2 feet.
Wait, do you mean to tell me it's going to snow here in January?
It is a winter storm warning, Mike Danger.
A winter storm warning? Warning. What's a warning? VOR.
It goes from winter storm watch to a winter storm warning.
Warning Votch? What's a Votch? What the?
Oh, the rating's going to be fantastic tonight.
Yeah. Tune in, as they say. It is. Look. Be safe. We don't want anybody to go out there and put themselves in harm's way. But I can tell you that in dealing with colleagues across the country and in different parts of, that my colleagues in Virginia are not taking this in stride, this winter storm in stride, and they're, in their defense, they're not equipped the way we are equipped. 8 inches of snow or any sort of ice is crippling to them and shuts everything down for the better part of a week. Whereas like here, it's what are we getting? 2 feet of snow? Yeah, okay. Well, we'll be good to go. We'll be fine.
Yeah, and we'll be back on Monday. I don't necessarily have a problem with the Bills talking to Phillip Rivers. I do think you're kind of sort of wasting your time talking to Mike McDaniel. Yes, Mike McDaniel ran this offense, and he didn't really have all the tools he needed, see Tua Tagovailoa. But you got to be a leader of men. That's his flaw. As an OC with the Chargers, that would be really, really good. But you and I were just wondering about this dude's mental health.
How does the interview go with Brandon Beane on this one? Hey, good morning, Mike. How are you?
You should stand corrected. Good morning. False. Great morning. Let's go.
Why great? What makes this one great?
Because we're another day closer to death.
Oh.
I'll be my Brandon Beane impression. Mike, great having you here. What is your philosophy on winning the game?
where to win games, you have to win the game, not lose the game, honestly. And that is how you lose the game. You're moving the ball down the field. You're 1st and 10, and then you find yourself at 2nd and 20. That was critical.
Nah.
That is not edited, by the way. No. Pass.
Pass on Mike McDaniel. I like that they talked to him.
Okay, from this standpoint, he beat you. You have some personnel on defense you probably might want to consider changing out. Listen to him and get his thoughts on the Bills' personnel. And it's just information.
Ask him about Anthony Weaver.
Yeah?
Ask him about his defensive coordinator who you're going to talk to on Saturday. I don't hate that they talked to him. I don't think he's the guy, but I don't hate that because when do you get the opportunity? If you're Brandon Beane, when do you get the opportunity to talk to these guys in this setting with this on the line to pick their brain, to learn more about what makes them tick, how they operate, how they would work? And if you're a Mike McDaniel in this situation, how do you not give up too much knowing, yeah, I'm probably not taking this job because I am going to be better suited as the OC in sunny Los Angeles versus the head coach in Buffalo with the Bills. So I think it's an interesting net that they have cast here. The 8 candidates that we've got reported on, range from having never coached before to having some coaching experience, head coaching experience, to no head coaching experience, but coordinator experience. I mean, it is so far a diverse group of candidates, and I don't hate them for talking to Mike McDaniel or Phillip Rivers.
But one thing we can put to rest, right? Oh, think about how crazy this week's Monday. Oh, my God, they let go Sean McDermott. You think, first thought comes in your mind, they must have somebody. Nope. And if they do, they're really keeping it close to the vest.
Or they have to wait. That's
true, too. 866-4FAN, happy hour. We haven't had a chance to take your calls today. Let's knock a few out. Aaron in Pittsburgh joining us. Hey, Aaron.
Hey, would you take Mike McDaniel as the offensive coordinator?
Well, the thing is, with him already kind of agreeing to be the OC in Los Angeles, I think you're losing out on that. I don't think you're getting him as your OC. I think it's head coach or nothing for Mike McDaniel at this point.
Nope. Yeah.
Okay.
Sounds like he had something going on in the car.
Yeah, he's on dad duty.
But that's unusual, right? That was one of those. He takes the OC job. Okay, he's not going to, be the head coach in Cleveland or wherever it is.
He interviewed. I mean, look, he took interviews with the Falcons, with the Ravens. He withdrew from the Browns. The Raiders is still a possibility. The Titans, they picked up Salah. So really, it's the Bills or the Raiders head coaching job that he would take, or I'm going to stay in L.A. So minimum, he's the OC in L.A.
One of the names we kind of explored today, that was Grant Udinski, 4 o'clock hour if you missed it. Mia O'Brien, who has been on the Jags beat. She does national radio now for ESPN as well, and she's plugged in with the Jags. Okay, tell us about this offensive coordinator. Well, one, it was Liam Cohen calling the plays. 2, he's 30. But you can see he's a bright, rising talent. My takeaway from that danger is that would be a little bit risky. I feel like a little ahead of schedule. But on that side of the ball, maybe that's what you're looking for here. I don't know how the Bills are evaluating things. Like, if you're going to look for something completely, totally new and fresh, maybe he is your guy.
There's a part of me that believes a guy like Udinski or Davis Webb could go in and knock them away with their interview ability. Have a plan, be well-spoken, come across extremely intelligent. And I just don't know that that's enough. And I hate that my mind is going here, but I think it was Lance who joined us, Lance Lysowski, the Buffalo News, who joined us earlier. It's like trying to determine who the best guy is going to be here. If you were telling yourself it was going to be a 30-year-old like Udinski or Davis Webb, it's a hard thing for me to say that makes sense. Because then you have to surround them with experience on defense and on offense. And a lot of the people that would be best suited for that job, frankly, aren't going to be here to be an OC. They want to be the head coach or nothing. Brian Daboll specifically.
Daboll's interesting, though. If he doesn't get the head coaching job, would he view the Buffalo offensive coordinator position as being the best of the options he may have at coordinator?
Yeah, I don't know that he would. I don't know that he would come back here just to be the OC again. Been there, done that kind of thing. I want a new challenge. Let me go somewhere where I can show what I can do. If it's that ultimatum, I'd be surprised if that's the ultimatum. I'd be surprised if Brandon Beane said, "Okay, yeah, we're gonna go with Daboll." That would, and you made the point earlier this week. Daboll is somebody you get the impression he would resist. He would fight back.
Well,
he's not going to roll over. He's not a pushover.
You saw an emboldened Brandon Beane at that press, and that didn't sit well. When DA kind of brought up, like, the tone of that press conference, all wrong. We've talked about that. But the team president now, the new head coach, is not going to have the direct line to the owner. Okay? It's going to be Beane. And with it being Beane, you imagine Daboll pushing back? I can imagine Daboll pushing back.
Right. And I'm sure Daboll probably would like to have that direct line to the owner and be on equal footing to be able to defend his decisions and his guys against what he knows Brandon Beane is going to say, especially after seeing what happened with Sean McDermott and how that, you don't want to call it a power struggle. It was a power struggle. To see how that unfolded. I still think it's an attractive job, but knowing the parties involved, it makes it a little bit less attractive. Maybe it's Clint Kubiak. We haven't talked enough about that. We'll see.
Well, that's the whole thing. Like, we're going to have new coordinators pop up Sunday night instantly, and Monday we'll come back and who lost the game? Wow, the Rams lost. All right, Schlierhaus we'll learn about. He'll get around to interviews.
Shula.
Yeah.
Oh, the Broncos are out. Okay, let's interview Vance Joseph. Let's bring in Davis Webb.
He'll have his time of his life in Buffalo.
He will.
For sure. 866-4FAN. Brad in Rochester. Hey, Brad.
Hey, guys. It's kind of like the devil you know versus the devil you don't with this Bill search. And my thought is it's going to be Daboll. I think they're going to bring Davis Webb on as an OC and have Daboll calling plays. And I would really love to see Jim Schwartz come back to Buffalo as the DC. If I had my way, I mean, Jim Schwartz probably is not going to get another head coaching job anywhere, but he does a great job on as a defense coordinator and would bring some definite stability to there. You wouldn't worry, well, Babbage did this or we're doing that. No, it's Schwartz running the show and actually getting pressure on the quarterback.
It's funny, Brad, and thanks for the call. We don't even talk about Babbage at all. Like, that was Sean McDermott's defense, and Babbage was there to do what he was supposed to do. So I'm not even entertaining. We have to explore that too. Like, all right, new head coach comes in. Who's the DC?
I like the fact that they're interviewing Anthony Weaver. Anthony Weaver is not as a head coach for me, but if he doesn't get a head coaching job, I think he's getting a second interview with the Browns, I want to say. To have him as your defensive coordinator based on what he's done in Miami, Baltimore.
Well, see, you could sell me on that, and you hit on something with Mia O'Brien because nobody would know. But if Udinski in Jacksonville doesn't call the play,
what does he do?
What the hell are you doing? Like, it's Liam Cohen's. It was the same thing with Andy Reid all those years. No, he's bringing back Bieniemy. Like, you can't escape that shadow. You want to go prove yourself. I would think that he would have to afford the opportunity to let his OC actually call plays at some point. Or if not, then let him go. That wouldn't be a lateral move. Some may view it as a lateral move. I say no. You give him the assistant head coach title, and you're the offensive coordinator. This is your offense with Josh Allen and James Cook and a pretty decent offensive line. Have at it. Who wouldn't want that?
Right. First opportunity for a guy like Davis Webb to call plays. First opportunity for a guy like Grant Udinski to call plays, even though he's the OC. But to Mia's point, the familiarity of being there and betting on yourself and knowing that you're only 30 and you're going to have plenty of cracks. Yeah, maybe you stay put. Interesting. We'll see how they mesh here when they meet over the weekend. And, come Monday, what does the world look like? We'll know who the Super Bowl is. We'll know who's available. We'll have more names added to the candidate list, I'm sure.
You and I have never talked less about championship weekend.
It's true.
We talked a little bit with PJ. We talked about the lines. I talked to you about what you can expect when the Patriots win, where they will bring up the B-roll footage. Here's the 2020 season AFC Championship game, and there's Stephon Diggs, and looking angrily in the distance are the Chiefs celebrating with the confetti in an empty stadium. Like the Diggs celebration.
It has to be Denver.
It
has to be Denver. I mean, I guess if I can get lathered up for Sunday, I have to put everything I have on Denver. Just don't disappoint us. I know it's Jarrett Stidham, but that defense is a good defense.
Sean Payton. Like, unless you're a Denver fan, he's an a-hole.
Yes, but he's one hell of a coach. I mean, if we had more time this week to do the autopsy on that game.
He outcoached McDermott.
Oh, it wasn't even close. Yeah, I mean, that was one of the best play calls the idea that he knew exactly when to call the play to expose the weakness. Oh, you're going to put Darnell Savage back in the secondary. Great. Let me call this. Oh, is that Dane Jackson I see?
Hey, zing.
This will be a touchdown. Watch this. 14 points on 2 plays because he knew what to exploit. He knew the matchups were in his favor. He knew that the Bills were wounded. Ugh, it's sickening, but it was so good. And he's terrible. He's just not a likable guy.
Well, he's got an opportunity here because he won with the Saints. There's very few that have gotten to a Super Bowl with 2 different franchises. You know, there hasn't been a coach to win a Super Bowl with multiple franchises.
No kidding.
As head coach. Now Stidham, hard for me to imagine because I can see them beating New England.
Sure.
I don't see them beating whoever's representing the NFC. Stranger things have happened. But if he gets to a Super Bowl with Jarrett Stidham, 1 game, that's solidified for even for the Bounty Gate stuff like that. That'll solidify him as a Hall of Fame coach.
I think he's a Hall of Famer already. But yes, no question. To be the first guy to win with 2 separate teams, yeah. They were doing a countdown of like the most heartbreaking Sean Payton losses in the postseason, and it was comical.
Well, I mean, if we want to feel bad about the catch, that was a catch. I mean, go back and look at that non-PI call in the NFC Championship. By the way, that game, you want to remember about that day, Danger? Snowstorm. Like just being snowed in that day for Championship Sunday, and like, oh, okay, and watching both games, it ended up being really good.
Typically, I'm trying to remember the Championship Sundays where it isn't snowing. It's always it feels like Championship Sunday it's going to snow. You had the Minneapolis Miracle with Diggs. That was against the Saints in Minnesota.
It was
a playoff loss.
Well, that was divisional round. Yep. Gotcha.
So you had that.
Yep.
You had the non-PI call. I mean, Beastquake.
Oh,
just some bad playoff losses by Sean Payton. Some heartbreaking playoff losses by Sean Payton. But come on, we need a win. We need Denver to beat New. I can't. I don't want to see it. I don't want to see Diggs celebrating. I don't want to see the Patriots in the Super Bowl again. It's too soon.
Coaches that have been to a Super Bowl with multiple franchises: Parcells, Shula, Dick Vermeil, Holmgren, Dan Reeves.
It's a pretty good list.
Yeah. Like Dan Reeves, you forget it. Oh, yeah, that's right.
Atlanta,
yeah.
Pretty good list. All right, well, we'll see what the world looks like come Monday afternoon. We'll be here at 3, and we'll have a little bit more color on the Bills' coaching search as well. Interviews, I think, shifting from where they are now in Florida to, you were saying they're going to go to L.A. this weekend. And we know that Udinski is on Sunday. Anthony Weaver is tomorrow.
Anthony Weaver completing his interview just now with the Steelers.
Mm-hmm.
So, funny how we've yet to have the actual credible report that some team is talking to Sean McDermott.
Interest from the Browns.
That was not credible.
Oh, I thought that came from one of the Goombas.
Nope.
Oh.
Well, let me just kind of make sure. So
Well, I imagine Sean McDermott would love to coach again next year, but maybe it's just too late. Maybe they didn't do him any favors by letting go of him as late in the cycle as they did, because teams have their list, they have their process, and they're too far along the process to reverse course.
Okay, so Mary Kay Cabot said they're doing homework on Sean McDermott. I mean, they're talking to him. That doesn't mean they're interested. They're just, they're not ruling it out, I guess, at this point.
Yeah, he's familiar with the Haslams. He interviewed there in
Don't
2016.
do it. Like, terrible take Timmy. We'll see him later. He's coming in for Amex Hockey. He would agree. Don't do it. Sean, if that's your only option, sit out. Enjoy your family. Do a little TV. Have some fun.
If I'm a Browns fan, I want that all day. Give me Sean McDermott.
If I'm Sean McDermott, I'm advising him. You will have other opportunities.
Will he?
Ooh.
I mean, we forget about everything in the NFL. It moves so fast. You forget guys that are out there. You forget names that are available. You forget coaches.
The fact he doesn't have a Super Bowl on his resume.
I think he'd be compelling in 2027 for a team looking for a head coach, in that he has the resume that he has, even though there's no Super Bowl on it. But I just think a team like Cleveland, a team like Vegas, a team like Arizona, you got to change the culture. You need a guy to change the culture. That's your guy. And honestly, maybe it's the Jets. Maybe he's going to wait until Aaron Glenn's a lame duck coach, but you bring in McDermott and you get the chance to stick it to your former team twice a year if you're Sean McDermott, and you wait a year and the Jets' job opens up. I don't know if he would want that. That would be worst job, Jets or Browns. If you're the Jets, if you can reverse the Jets' fortunes and get them back to the postseason the way he did with Buffalo, you're set. They'll love you forever. They'll always remember their time with Rex. They'll always remember their time with Sean McDermott if he can end the drought.
You could say that with Cleveland. Granted, they've had some, there was one fun year with Baker Mayfield where they lose in the divisional round to Kansas City, but by and large, it's been horrible, right? So, that was almost by accident. It felt like that for Cleveland. 866-4FAN, 866-4326. One thing we haven't done all week.
Shots. Dry January. No shots.
I am doing Dry January. This has been been very, very taxing this week.
You didn't share that with me. That's
not seeing the the results yet, but I feel a lot better.
Well, I'm glad you feel that way. And anybody that wants to partake in Dry January, no judgment for me. It can't do it. Not me.
The executive producer thinks I'm crazy. She will come home and she'll have her rosé all.
I have a friend who practices Dry February simply because it's the shortest month of the year. And I would subscribe to that. I would take that challenge up, but not this year.
No,
not this year. I have to give myself a good I got to mentally prepare for that kind of commitment. Good for you.
Well, let's see. What day is today? 20. I still have 7.5 more days to go, everybody. So we're not there yet.
Hey, you made it through the worst part. You made it through last weekend and this week.
No, Saturday night.
Yeah.
This isn't about me, but my experience Saturday night was I'm calling RIT hockey, and it's so weird while a Bills game is going on. Now, I taped it afterward and forced myself to watch that thing, but so strange. And then to know, and then just to see the react. I had my phone turned off the whole time. Turned it on, ooh,
yeah,
not bad.
It wasn't great.
No.
Well, let's get to a round of shots, Gino.
Yeah, so college football, we'll give you an update on this. The Sabres are a wagon. We'll tell you what's coming up. Also, a couple of follow-ups here, including a double date that one for the ages. I mean, notice that we haven't, other than Rex Ryan throwing Bill Belichick's name out, he's done in this league. Not a single team wanted to bring him in.
No, I told you. The NFL has a type, and he is not their type anymore. They've moved on from the Bill Belichick old school rough football guy. No, they have a type. You gotta look the part. You're a president, you're presidential, you're CEO. You're off the cover of GQ, or Cup of coffee with Sean McVay. That's it. That's the criteria.
Cup of coffee with Tom Brady? No?
No, not yet. Not yet. All right, we'll get to that. We got a round of shots. Don't forget about last call. You can have the final word. 866-4326. Pull up a stool. 585-8664-FAN. That's the Good Smoke Barbecue and Pub Wingman line. Award-winning barbecue from Good Smoke Barbecue and Pub, 135 West Commercial Street in East Rochester. GoodSmokeBBQ.com.
Sports Update.
The latest on the Bills coaching search, Mike McDaniel, former Dolphins head coach, has been added to the list. Completing his interview today, former Colts and Chargers quarterback, yes, this is true, Philip Rivers, Browning and Tasker offering their thoughts.
What's the culture going to be like with Philip Rivers?
Yeah, I mean, the people that play with him say he is a natural, authentic leader, and I think we all have agreed that the number one job requirement of an NFL head coach is to be a leader of men. I think there's a slight nuance difference from leading a team as a quarterback and leading a team as a head coach. It's different.
Sunday, the Bills will interview Jags OC Chris Udinski. First time tonight for the Amerks, opening a 6-game homestand of the season. That's the season long. Coverage begins at 7. The Amerks hosting Utica. RIT hockey tonight is at Niagara. They're at the Policini tomorrow. Team Battaglia, the sports leader. 95.7 FM and AM 950. The Fan, Rochester.
Listen to 95.7 The Fan Rochester on the Odyssey, iHeartRadio, or TuneIn apps, and take the sports leader with you everywhere you go.
Hey, if you missed our conversation earlier with Lance Lysowski of the Buffalo News, Mia O'Brien down in Jacksonville, learn a little bit more about Grant Udinski, or DA from the Bill Maddock podcast. We'll get those available for you. We are also a podcast. You can find us wherever you get your shows. Search The Sports Bar. That includes Spotify, and that includes Apple Podcasts as well. Let's get to a round of shots, Gino. This is like foreign territory for us here.
Yeah. Well, funny. Like Wednesday, we had our download record. Imagine that. Like, what was going on?
Was there something on Wednesday?
Yeah.
I can't remember.
Yeah, what was going on?
Yeah.
Last 20 games, the Sabres, 21 now. 17-3-1 since December 9th. They're first in the NHL in wins, first in points, fifth in goals per game. A win Tuesday against Nashville. Last night, fending off Montreal, team right there with them in the standings. And now we don't even have to think wild card. They're right there. Next stop on the road tomorrow against the Islanders. We'll have the call beginning at 1 o'clock.
I think the schedule is going to be a little daunting for them, but we'll learn how real they are here through that. And then, really for me, paying attention to the Sabres is going to start after the Olympics. I want to see what the rest of the NHL looks like after the Olympics as well. I think the Olympics, that pause, that 2-week gap, and how they come back, and then what the trade deadline looks like. What they're doing is great. I mean, it's sustainable. It would be nice if they had one more piece, but they've been fun to watch at minimum. And I like Doan a lot. Great signing, good stuff by the Buffalo Sabres. It's almost as if we can't have our cake and eat it too. Like if one franchise is doing well, the other one's struggling. If one's struggling, the other one does well. Between the Bills and the Sabres, I mean.
Now, so in professional sports, have we gotten immune or kind of blind to advertising on uniforms? For me, okay, for baseball, sometimes if it's the colors off, it kind of jumps out, but there's an ad on the sleeve. Same thing with the NBA. There's an ad on the helmet. Now the NCAA is going to allow 2 jersey patches coming up for all sports beginning next season. Division I leaders approving this, which this is going to be interesting because if you're, say, Pepsi and you pay all the money for March Madness, you're going to have a team coming in wearing jersey patches. But just, I guess, more hypocrisy from the NCAA, like thinking, okay, we couldn't allow this years ago. Now we need to find every.
They're making so much money. Like, for anybody that wants to say that college sports is a mess or college sports is in trouble or this is a dark time, like from a financial standpoint, don't tell me that. They're making so much money. And the ratings for Monday's national championship game, over 30 million. I mean, come on. They're doing just fine. And it's different, and it probably needs some regulation. Somebody needs to maybe organize it a little bit better than it has been because it feels like the wild, wild west. I'm fine with it. It's just the way of the world now. And in fact, when the NFL finally adopts it, I think at some point they will, that will cause a big commotion, but it is what it is.
So right now, kind of a peeing match, if you will, between the SEC and the Big Ten, as I understand it. You hear this story like, wait a second, you're kidding me. They're not going to expand the college football playoff.
Oh, right. Wasn't that supposed to be in 2026?
Correct. All right, it's going to mean 12 coming up for this upcoming season.
Okay.
Where, all right, well, if you went to 16, that's a few more games, and that would be more revenue. Well, it's Greg Sankey, the SEC commissioner, who is pushing for the 16-team model. Big Ten commissioner Tony Petitti saying, we're only going to sign off on the 16 if in 3 years from now we go to 24.
Oh, yeah, I want more.
So this is Tony Petitti.
I want
And
seconds.
So basically, this is kind of a demeasuring contest between these two commissioners.
Yeah. You think you're the best? No. I lead the Big Ten. You know why? 'Cause I'm Italian.
24.
That's
what
too much.
What are we doing?
But honestly, don't mess with a good thing. You got 12 right now. It's been a couple. It feels like it's only been, 2-3 seasons that we've had? 2 seasons that we've had 12, right?
Why do we need to rush this? And look, you can be one. Miami proved the committee right, did they not?
Yeah. The future is bright, and I think that you can leave it at 12. Honestly, as long as you want to leave it at 12, knowing that 16 is always in the cards. I don't know that I would go to 24. That feels like a lot, but here's what I can promise you. If there's money to be made, they will find a way to make it. And they get this in before there's any sort of collective bargaining between the student athletes and the schools. And they can make any wild claim that they want to make or wild idea that they want to throw out there. It's on the table. Do it now while you can, because if the athletes unionize, now what are you going to do? Now everything has to be bargained, right?
Yeah. It was a great college football season. It really was.
It was awesome.
Yeah.
It was so much fun. And the final was great. It was a tight game. It drew a big number. I liked having different teams instead of your typical blue blood teams in there. It was fine.
No, watching Alabama get rolled in the Rose Bowl, that was fun. A couple notes on the 12-team field. Number one, if Notre Dame finishes in the final ranking by the committee in the top 12, they're in.
That's right.
That's part one, and they will keep one of the group of 6 teams.
Just one.
Like that. Well, there'll be one team, and maybe like you'll get 2, but that's going to be first. Like last year, or rather, both of them. Tulane.
So if Notre Dame is out of the top 12, then you get 2 teams from the group of 6 in?
Not necessarily.
Okay.
So you could go with like the next.
So at least one.
At least one.
Group of 6.
Yeah. So those are the 2 things that are going to be different. New York baseball, a couple moves from over the week we didn't get to. Hey, the Mets made a trade, but I think this is more an indictment on baseball that Milwaukee looked at their payroll and it realized Freddie Peralta 17-6, a 2.70 ERA, and they flipped him to the Mets for 2 prospects.
Yeah. Good prospects, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, but you're the Mets. You can go buy somebody else. You're not going to be able to buy a pitcher around the market, with the quality of Freddie Peralta. Finally, the Yankees and Cody Bellinger this week stopped their song and dance. Bellinger 5 years, $162 million. Opt-outs after years 2 and 3. Bellinger 272, 29 home runs, but he was batting behind Aaron Judge last year. The lawyer for former Michigan coach Sharon Moore asking for charges to be dismissed for her client. That didn't happen. Moore is going to next appear in court on March 19th for the probable cause hearing. He was in court danger with his wife and 3 children by his side.
Man, that is a tough scene.
Why bring the children?
No,
they should not be a problem.
Why is she still with him?
Well, there's a picture that's going around, and granted, just one little snapshot, but he's having a laugh with his lawyer, which, okay, this doesn't look appropriate when you're being accused of this crime. And the wife, she looks like she's ready to explode.
I asked the question, why is she still with him? Is it just for the kids?
Why are the kids in the courtroom?
That's right. Yeah. Sad.
On a much lighter note, TMZ caught up with a fan of the Miami Hurricanes. That's adult film star Abdullah Danger.
Who?
Abdullah Danger.
Abdullah?
Not related to you. Let me make that clear.
Abdullah? Abella?
Abella? Is that how we
Abdullah?
Abdullah.
I don't know.
How do we say her first name?
I don't know.
Danger?
I've never heard of her in my
Ms.
life.
Danger.
Never heard of her in my life, Gino. Are you mispronouncing her name? I wouldn't know.
Well, let's make one thing clear. You're not related. In fact, her name's fake. So is yours. Stage names.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. You're in radio, and she's in a different art.
She's a mattress actress.
Quote, I would give anything in the world to not have ESPN film me. I am so deeply sorry to anyone I offended with my attendance at the game. I wish I could be any other student supporting my team. Oh, stop.
Well, I honestly, the guys at ESPN that decided to show her.
No.
Yeah, well, I would just say, do a day in jail. Just put him in jail for a day. Just let him, rot for a day, and just a message. Send a message. Hey guys, we need you to be a little bit better than that. Like everybody knew. We're all kind of. I mean, I didn't know, of course, but pretty much everybody knew.
Well, didn't your Goomba text line neighborhood?
We have one guy who's supposed aficionado
of the arts
of the arts, and he said. Somebody put up the screen. Hey, do you know who this is? And he said, I don't know who that is. And my reaction was, yeah, man, me neither. I don't know who that is. Who is that? She's an undergrad. She's going to be a lawyer.
That's right.
And you know what? She also has more money than any of us. She's doing just fine for herself. This feels like this is her saying basically, I really don't care that you showed me on ESPN and. Screw all of you. I'm being sarcastic. Oh God, if I could only, if I could only be, right. If I could only be just a regular undergrad, no.
Yeah, you passed on that lifestyle long ago. If you think that was strange, try this one on. Where Bill Belichick and Tom Brady on a double date at the Football National Championship. Belichick's 24-year-old girlfriend, Jordan Hudson. And Tom Brady's rumored 25-year-old flame, Alex Earl, sitting together in Miami. Jordan putting it on Insta, quote, friend from another time.
Oh, God. Oh, perfect. Gather them all together, all the 20-something-year-old influencers that are dating guys that are 30, 40 years older than him. Go. Just put them all together.
You're Tom Brady. Don't you want somebody who's intellectually stimulating and not just the influencer
Are you kidding?
time?
Are you kidding?
Don't you want... You're like a McDermott stand. I'm standing up for both. I'm standing up for the women of the sports bar.
I get it. Yeah. Well, the good news for Brady, and I think most men know this, that it doesn't really matter how hot she is or how young she is or how attractive she is, that at some point, he's going to get tired of her crap. It happens no matter what. That is. Why did you bring that up, Gene? A double date? A Belichick Brady double date? Do we know that actually? Did we see Belichick and Brady together? Are they friendly?
Well, they were. We know they were both at the game.
Okay.
But as far as them, that's why I'm suggesting, was that actually a double date? How did the two ladies end up in the same luxury box?
Because they're both influencers, and they both probably, my bestie. What did she say? My friend from another timeline. Get out of here.
Ooh, and I've got this, too, because it's a cold winter Friday evening, right? So we start to think of baseball, right? And, well, when you start thinking about that, the TV coverage is going to be different this year, right?
Okay.
New packages. NBC's back in the game. Sunday night. You know where I'm going with this.
Yeah.
He's back.
Uh-huh.
Bob Costas will be your studio host.
Sweet.
For Major League Baseball on NBC. Opening day, March 26th, Dodgers and Diamondbacks.
Nobody takes it more seriously than he does. I mean, this is.
He's baseball writer with a microphone.
He really is. He is perfect for this. As long as it doesn't come to, I mean, Costas lost, I think, a lot of people when it became about Costas and his opinions and his views and, bloviating about what's wrong with the NFL and blah, blah, blah.
At the end where it's the Yankees and Royals.
That was terrible.
And
That's him in the booth, though.
That was him in the booth, but it was torturous.
It was
bad. Like, Bob, can we talk about the game? Bob, you're not getting paid by the minute per word here. What are we doing?
Yeah, that was bad. This is a studio gig. I think he's good in the studio. As long, most of us, follow a script.
As long as he doesn't, veer off and talk about world events or whatever it is.
Although this season with baseball, there'll be plenty to pontificate about.
Well, yeah, when you get to labor and everything else, and I'm sure that, the Dodgers, some people think the Dodgers are bad for baseball. And
Bob Costas opines on the A's not having a home. My column. Stick to the script, Bob.
Hey, he's 73. He does this because he loves it. At this point,
dude is 73.
Yeah.
And he looks younger than both of us. God.
That's true.
I need his plastic surgeon. Pronto. That guy. 73? Costas is 73?
73.
Al is how old? Al is pushing 80?
I'm guessing. Let's see. Al, what's your official guess?
I say 79.
81.
81.
He's going to be back for another. Al should.
He's still good, man. I wanted to be more enthusiastic during big plays, but I think there's. I heard Joe Buck say this, and I agree with it. Hearing his voice on a game, and this game is important. Even if it's a meaningless Thursday night game between two crappy AFC South teams, his voice still resonates.
All right, well, then he lent his voice to AI a couple years ago. Why don't we just have AI Al? AI Al there to give you the call.
Al AI on the call for Thursday Night Football. Don't wish that, Gino, because I guarantee you somebody's thinking about that and figuring out a way to replace not just Al, but all of us with the robots. So, that's going to do it, man.
Wow.
What a week. Oh, my God. Thank you so much throughout the course of the week. I know we have picked up some new audience. We appreciate you listening. Thanks for checking out the stream on our YouTube channel, The Fan Rochester, also streaming on Twitch at The Fan Rochester. You'll always be able to hear us in the Odyssey app, iHeartRadio, tune in, your smart device when you ask it to play 95.7 The Fan. And also, don't forget about the Sports Bar in podcast form, wherever you get your favorite shows. Search out the Sports Bar. You'll find our guest appearances. You'll find some full shows up there. You'll find all kinds of content when you search out the Sports Bar. Monday, we are back. Uncle Dan joins us, Dan Fates, 13 Wham and Buffalo Plus. And we'll get the latest on the Buffalo Bills head coaching search. Bet MGM tonight. Amerks hockey coming up at 7 here on The Fan Rochester. Have a great weekend.
You're listening to the Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia.